Chapter 304. Sunway stepped back. His palm was twisted and deformed. Blood flowed out. It was a shocking sight. How can this be? Sunway's physique is not as good as that new disciple. Impossible. No one could keep calm. They were all stunned. Everyone knew that Sunway had cultivated Miang Feng's famous body tempering technique. His physique was almost invincible in the sea of consciousness realm. But now, Lin Tian had almost smashed Sunway's palm with one punch. This made many people pale. This guy's physique is so powerful. Why didn't I notice it before? Bai Qiu mumbled. Lin Tian stared at Sunway and said, "As your junior brother, I don't have any gifts. Just take this punch as a free gift to senior brother. I hope that senior brother can keep a low profile in the future and not have too much of a sense of superiority." Sunway put his injured hand behind his back. His face suddenly became gloomy. "I have to admit that I underestimated you," Sunway said coldly. As soon as he finished speaking, a big sword suddenly appeared in his other hand. Dense vital essence suddenly burst out. "Middle grade, true treasure," someone exclaimed. The big sword was surrounded by light. It had a shocking glow, which made many people's eyes light up. It should be known that a mid-grade true treasure could increase the battle prowess of the owner by 80 to 90%. It was extremely valuable. Moreover, mid-grade true treasures were all forged from extraordinary materials. They were extremely sturdy, which made many onlookers envious. As soon as the mid-grade true treasure sword appeared, Sunway's aura changed. It was as if he was really an unsheathed sharp blade. "I only wanted to break your legs and let you quietly reflect on yourself in bed for 2 months. It seems that I was too kind. Then I will add an arm. Go to bed and reflect on yourself for 2 more months." Boom! Vital essence surged. Sunway's aura soared again. Lin Tian was expressionless. He kicked a piece of bluestone at his feet. "Put away your arrogance." Sunway slashed down with his sword. Suddenly, the bluestone was smashed into powder. He turned it into powder with one slash? So powerful. This is a mid-grade true treasure? It's so much stronger than a low-grade true treasure. It feels like they're not even on the same level. It would be great if I had a treasure like this. Many people were shocked. Bai Qiu transmitted his voice to Lin Tiandao, saying, "Be careful. That mid-grade supreme treasure of his is not ordinary. It should be able to increase his battling power by 90%. That is to say, he is now comparable to a warrior in the 9th sky of the spiritual ocean." Sunway swallowed a medicinal pill, and his injured palm crackled as it quickly recovered by more than half. Holding the middle-grade true treasure sword, Sunway stepped toward Lin Tian and said, "You have some strength, but your vision is too narrow. Today, I will let you broaden your horizons. I will let you see the combat ability of someone in the 9th level of the spiritual sea using a middle-grade true treasure." With a boom, the sound of swords rang out, and dense sword light surrounded Sunway. Lin Tian sneered and shook his head. "Can you die if you're not superior?" His master was an expert of the Enlightenment realm, and he had seen the battles between experts of the Enlightenment realm with his own eyes. He had seen the old drunkard's broken 9 springs sword with his own eyes, and it contained the power to destroy the world. But now, a cultivator of the 8th celestial layer of the Sea of Consciousness was holding a middle-grade supreme treasure, and he actually said that his vision was too narrow. This really made him speechless. It was really funny. Sunway's face became colder. He raised his hand, and the sword light swept toward Lin Tian. Clang! 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 The sound of swords rang out, and the sword light filled the void. Many people were shocked and couldn't help but gasp. Such sword momentum sealed the surroundings in the blink of an eye. It was really scary. "Be careful," Bai Qiu warned. Lin Tian smiled coldly. He moved his feet and directly went toward Sunway. "I will send you to heaven with an iron fist," he said lightly. Facing the sword light that filled the sky, he directly swung his fist down. Swish! 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 In just a moment, all the sword light in the air was shattered by him. "Oh my God, this!" He smashed the sword light. This, what kind of physique is this? How could this happen? At the foot of the fallen immortal peak, the eyes of the onlookers almost popped out. Not only these people, but even Sun Wei himself also changed his expression. He was shocked by Lin Tian's fierce punch. Simple and direct, one punch smashed all his sword light. This made his heart tremble. However, at this moment, Lin Tian had already arrived in front of him. Suddenly, his face changed again, and he hurriedly raised his sword and slashed. Lin Tian's face was indifferent. He didn't make any extra movements, and he still only punched down. This punch directly hit the blade of the big sword, and it actually made a crisp clang. That punch just now, it hit the blade directly, right? Yes, it seems like I didn't see it wrong. He actually hit a mid-grade true treasure with his bare hands? Everyone was stunned. Many people's lips were trembling, and they couldn't even speak properly. Just the thought of it was enough to make one's heart palpitate. If one was not careful, one's fist would be sliced open by the sharp sword, and one's arm would be crippled. But now, Lin Tian had done just that, and his fist was not damaged at all after colliding with the sword. Instead, he was suppressing the middle-grade true treasure. Seeing this scene, even Bai Qiu's eyes were wide open. This was like a ferocious beast in human form. Clang! In the field, Lin Tian threw a second punch, and it landed on Sun Wei's big sword again. A majestic force surged up. Sun Wei felt his arm go numb, and he was forced to step back. Again, Lin Tian's feet moved, and he approached again, smashing down with his fist again. Sun Wei's expression changed. Lin Tian's speed was too fast, and he couldn't fight back at all. He could only block with his treasure sword. Clang! Another punch, heavy and ferocious, ruthlessly pressed down on the large sword. Moreover, at this time, a cracking sound was heard, shocking everyone and causing them to look forward. Then, they saw a clear crack appear on the mid-grade true treasure in Sun Wei's hand. It was at least an inch long. No, it can't be. The middle-grade true treasure sword is cracked. Is he the reincarnation of the dragon? He actually cracked a mid-grade true treasure with his bare hands? Many people were shocked. After Lin Tian threw out his fist, he did not stop. He continued to punch Sun Wei again and again. Each time, he clashed head-on with the mid-grade true treasure sword, and each time, Sun Wei was forced to retreat. Clang! 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 The iron fist and the big sword kept colliding, and the cracking sound was heard again and again. Finally, when Lin Tian's ninth punch landed, the big sword in Sun Wei's hand was completely broken into pieces with a cracking sound. Mom, this is unbelievable. A middle-grade supreme treasure sword was actually smashed into pieces by his iron fist. Damn it, where did this freak come from? How can a spiritual ocean cultivator? How can he have such a strong physical body? This is absolutely impossible. I don't understand. Many people almost vomited their hearts out. Bai Qiu opened her mouth wide, and her beautiful eyes were full of shock. This guy, he hit a mid-grade true treasure with his bare hands. And not only was he unharmed, but he also smashed the treasure. Such a body was not ordinary. To have such a strong physical body at such a level, it was hard to find someone like him even in the ancient families and sacred lands of inheritance. Sun Wei's face suddenly became extremely ugly. His medium true treasure, his strongest weapon, had actually been shattered by Lin Tian's iron fist. This made him feel both shocked and pained. Damn it, you actually clang? Lin Tian lifted his leg and sent Sun Wei flying with a kick. Is this what you mean by the powerful combat power of a middle-grade true treasure? He said indifferently. Sun Wei's face turned pale. You clang. As soon as he said you, Lin Tian kicked him down the mountainside of the fallen celestial peak. Standing at the peak, Lin Tian took out his sword and looked at Sun Wei, who was at the waist of the mountain, and said, Since you are here, don't think that you can leave so easily. Repair the stone steps with them. Once they are done, you can return to Muyang Peak. Impossible, you puff. A beam of sword chi flew out and pierced through Sun Wei's arm, causing him to cry out in pain. Lin Tian said with a straight face. Don't be mistaken. I'm not negotiating with you. This guy wants to detain Sunway too? Repair the stone steps? Oh my god, he's crazy. If the peak master of Myong Feng knew about this, he'd be so angry that he'd vomit blood. This is really, many people gasped, detaining a dozen disciples from a glorious peak to do manual labor. This had never happened in the history of the Limitless sect. Sun Wei's face was pale, and he glared at Lin Tian. However, when he met Lin Tian's cold eyes, he couldn't help but tremble. Staring at the long sword in Lin Tian's hand, which was cold and full of sword radiance, Sun Wei felt a chill in his heart. He couldn't help but feel a sense of fear. He didn't say anything else. Senior brother's son, bear with it for now. When eldest senior brother comes out of seclusion, he'll avenge us. Lu Cheng pulled Sun Wei over and whispered. Sun Wei gritted his teeth and looked at Lin Tianyi unwillingly, but he had no choice but to bear with it. Don't be lazy, a cold voice sounded. More than a dozen sword radiances fell and slashed toward the blue-clothed young man and Lu Cheng. Everyone was shocked, cursing in their hearts. Everyone's faces turned pale, and they hurriedly moved. It's unbelievable. This so-called trash, who just entered the fallen celestial peak, is actually so terrifying. Since this guy is so strong, why did he come to the fallen celestial peak? This is too much. I don't understand. However, this guy is too evil. He actually threatened Sun Wei and the others to repair the dilapidated fallen celestial peak. Tis TSK, this feud is huge. I don't know where Sun Wei and the others' faces will be. Not only that, Myong Feng's face is almost completely lost. Exactly, many people were discussing. Hearing these voices, the faces of Sun Wei and the others became even uglier. They couldn't wait to swallow Lin Tian alive. Lin Tian's expression was indifferent. He held his long sword and looked around at everyone, looking like a supervisor. At this moment, Bai Qiu ran over and pulled him aside. She stared at him with her beautiful big eyes. Tell me honestly, do you have the Barbarian King body? End of chapter. Chapter 305. Bai Qiu was a little surprised. He was only at the 6th celestial stage, but he had such a strong physique. He was able to smash a mid-grade supreme treasure with his bare fists. This was ridiculous. Even some ferocious beasts didn't have such a strong physique. Barbarian King physique? No. Lin Tian shook his head. Liar. Bai Qiu grabbed Lin Tian and said through gritted teeth, You're only at the 6th celestial stage, but your physique has already reached the Zephyr realm, comparable to a 3rd celestial stage expert. This is abnormal. Even if you have a profound physique refining technique, you can't reach this level. Your physique is not much weaker than my brother's. Lin Tian didn't answer and asked, Is your brother very strong? Suppressing you now is countless times easier than drinking water. Bai Qiu curled his lips. Lin Tian, you talk so highly of yourself. I'll beat your brother up sooner or later. He muttered to himself. Bai Qiu stared at him with wide eyes. What did you say? I said if there's a chance, I must meet your brother and see what kind of heroic man he is. Lin Tiandao snorted. In the 2nd celestial stage, there are no more than 5 people in the same generation who can fight with my brother. So strong? Lin Tian was surprised. The 2nd heavenly layer was incomparably vast. Apart from the Ancient Bai clan, there were also the demonic holy grounds, Wantong holy grounds, Taishin holy grounds, and the Anciently clan. With so many transcendent powers, it was inevitable that they would be dazzling figures in the same generation. However, Bai Qiu said that there were no more than 5 people in the same generation who could fight against her elder brother. Of course, my brother has the Thunder God physique, Bai Qiu said. Lin Tianyi was shocked. Your brother has the Thunder God physique? The Thunder God physique was one of the 12 king physiques. It was said that one punch could create a sea of lightning. Lin Tian was shocked. Bai Qiu's brother had the Thunder God physique. Don't be surprised. The whole 2nd celestial stage knows about this. Bai Qiu glanced at Lin Tianyi from the corner of his eyes. Then his eyes lit up. He grabbed Lin Tiandao and said, Tell me honestly, do you have the Barbarian King physique? It is absolutely impossible for an ordinary mortal to cultivate such a powerful physique in this realm. Even if you have the Empyrean secret technique, it is still impossible. It's really not the barbarian king physique. It's just a mortal body. Lin Tiandao. Bai Qiu ground his teeth. Liar. Lin Tian. Looking at Bai Qiu's big round eyes, he felt a little helpless. He spread his hands and said, "It's really just a bunch of ordinary people. What do you want me to say to make you believe me?" "Let me see your origin," Bai Qiu said. "You can see the source?" Lin Tian was surprised. Once you reach the Sea of Knowledge realm, you can see a person's origin. Of course, my cultivation is not much higher than yours, so you need to relax your body and not resist my divine sense. Bai Qiu stared at Lin Tian and said, "Let me see. I won't harm you." Lin Tian frowned and hesitated slightly. The source was very important to a cultivator. It was not a wise move to let others see it rashly. "You're doubting me," Bai Qiu said angrily. "Lin Tian, I didn't hide my identity from you. I told you so many things about the Bai family. I even told you that my brother has the Thunder God physique. You're actually doubting me and being afraid of me? You're too much," Bai Qiu said with grievance. Lin Tian. Hearing Bai Qiu say this, he was really a little embarrassed. "This chapter is not finished. Please turn the page up." After a pause, he said, "All right, but let me say this first. You can only see the source." He remembered that the source was at the abdomen of the human body, with the body as the center. The reason why he said that she could only see the source was because he was worried that Bai Qiu would scan his Sea of Knowledge. After all, his Sea of Knowledge contained a mysterious iron sword. This thing was very extraordinary, and he definitely could not let others know about it. Otherwise, there might be great trouble. Bai Qiu was a little happier. She looked down at a certain part of Lin Tian's body and pursed her lips. "I'm not looking there." A few black lines appeared on Lin Tian's forehead. Bai Qiu rubbed her hands together and became even happier. "Relax your body. Don't resist. Leave everything to me." Lin Tian was speechless. He couldn't help but say, "Little Qiu, your words are a little ambiguous. You sound like a bad girl." Bai Qiu was taken aback. She immediately realized what he meant and said with a red face, "Tui, shameless." Lin Tian. Taking a deep breath, Lin Tian scanned his surroundings and gradually relaxed his body. Then, he saw a strange light appear between Bai Qiu's brows. It gave him a feeling of holiness. In the next instant, Bai Qiu's eyes also lit up. There was a faint layer of light in her eyes as she stared straight at his abdomen. Lin Tian felt a little uncomfortable. He just treated it as the feeling of being spied on. Bai Qiu stared at Lin Tian's abdomen and seemed a little excited. Then, her beautiful brows gradually furrowed. "What's wrong?" Lin Tian asked. "Shut up," Bai Qiu shouted. Lin Tian. She was still so fierce when she was looking at someone else's essence. It really made him speechless. Bai Qiu stared straight at Lin Tian's abdomen. Gradually, her beautiful brows furrowed even deeper. "Didn't I tell you to relax and not reject me?" "I'm not rejecting you. Your essence is rejecting me." Lin Tian was a little helpless. "I'm already very relaxed. If I relax any more, I'll fall asleep." "Relax a little more?" Lin Tian took a deep breath and tried to relax his body and mind again. However, Bai Qiu's brows furrowed even deeper. They were almost twisted into a ball. After a few dozen breaths, Bai Qiu stopped. She stared at Lin Tian and gritted her teeth. "This is too much. Your essence is rejecting me." "What does that have to do with me? I'm already very relaxed." Lin Tian didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Bai Qiu gritted her teeth. Like a little demon whose fighting spirit had been aroused, she said, "If I add a wisp of essence, I don't believe that I can't see through it." Lin Tian was shocked. "Add a wisp of essence? What are you doing? You can't just use essence like that." "Don't worry. There's no problem," Bai Qiu said. As she spoke, Lin Tian felt a wisp of dim light rush out of Bai Qiu's body and quickly enter his body. In an instant, Lin Tian felt his body become extremely cold. It was as if he had fallen into a bottomless abyss. However, This feeling only lasted for a moment. In the next moment, the dim light rushed out of his body and entered Bai Chio's body again. Bai Chio's eyes widened. She gritted her teeth. You can even reject my essence, and you still say it's not a problem. Bai Chio stopped here and stared fiercely at Lin Tian. Anyway, tell me honestly, what kind of king body do you have? Normal bodies can't reject my essence. I really don't know. I'm just a normal body. Lin Tian was speechless. Bai Chio stared at Lin Tian. Nonsense. You're actually hiding things from me? I'm not going to talk to you anymore. Lin Tian was helpless. If I really hid things from you, I'd rather be struck by lightning and die. Really? Bai Chio asked doubtfully. Really? Lin Tian nodded. Bai Chio stared at Lin Tian for a moment until she was sure Lin Tian wasn't lying to her. Only then did she release Lin Tian. However, her beautiful brows furrowed even deeper. Looking at it from a distance with my divine sense, my essence is indeed no different from a normal person. I can't see any characteristics of other king bodies. However, my divine sense can only look at it from a distance. I can't get close at all. This isn't normal. What's worse is that even my essence can't get close. What are you muttering about? Lin Tian asked. Bai Chio looked up and stared at Lin Tian. She ground her teeth. You don't have any characteristics of other king bodies, but there's definitely a big problem with your body. As she said this, Bai Chio was shocked. She pulled Lin Tian over and said, Are you a reincarnation body? Lin Tian curled his lips. If I were a reincarnation body, I would beat your brother up right now. What are you talking about? Why beat my brother up? My brother didn't do anything to you. Bai Chio stared at him. Who asked you to say that it's easier for your brother to suppress me than to drink water? You're really petty. Bai Chio rolled her eyes. However, you dare to say that you'll beat my brother up right now? My brother can suppress you with one finger. That's not necessarily true. Lin Tianandao was a little curious. Speaking of which, I've noticed before that you seem to dislike reincarnation bodies. Why? Bai Chio snorted. Who asked the 9 celestial venerables to say that once a reincarnation body appears, there's no king body in the world. To hell with reincarnation bodies. Lin Tian blushed with shame. You just said that I'm petty. Aren't you even more petty now? After a pause, he said, but then again, if you really don't like the reincarnation physique because of this sentence, then it should be the other 11 king physiques that don't like it. Why are you joining in on the fun, looking like you have a deep grudge? I like it. It's none of your business. Bai Chio gritted her teeth and said, I only have 2 wishes in my life. First, when I become stronger, I'll suppress the old antiques in my family. Second, I'll catch a reincarnation body to carry water, chop wood, and plant flowers and grass. Lin Tian. She was really a little devil. The 2 of them talked as if there was no one else around. In the blink of an eye, the sky had completely darkened. The blue-clothed young man and the others had already tidied up the ruined hall. They fixed the wooden table and stone benches. Then, they repaired the stone steps of the fallen immortal peak with Sun Wei and the others. Because they didn't want to be surrounded by onlookers, their speed was shockingly fast. Get lost. Remember, if you come to the fallen immortal peak in the future, you must ask for permission at the foot of the mountain. Lin Tianandao. Ask for permission at the foot of the mountain? The fallen immortal peak doesn't have a peak master now. One of them said unhappily. Lin Tian raised his leg and kicked a fist-sized stone at his feet. It landed directly on the man's chest, causing him to scream and almost fall down from the mountainside of the fallen immortal peak. There is no peak master now, but since I'm the master here, I'm the person in charge here. If you want to enter the mountain, you have to get my permission. You don't agree? Lin Tianandao said coldly. There were many onlookers at the foot of the fallen immortal peak. After hearing this, they couldn't help but gasp. How domineering! Someone muttered. Sun Wei and the others were livid. No one spoke again. They glanced at Lin Tianyi sinisterly and quickly left. At this time, a group of people surrounded them and stared at them. They didn't want to stay here for a moment longer. End of chapter. Chapter 306. Lin Tian stood at the top of the fallen immortal peak and watched as Sun Wei and the others left. Then, he looked towards the crowd of spectators at the foot of the mountain and said, "Senior brothers, please disperse." His voice was calm, but it was clearly in order for them to leave. Everyone looked at Lin Tianyi and left after exchanging glances with each other. He was a madman who even suppressed Muyang Feng's Sun Wei and kept him as a coolie. No one dared to provoke him. Soon, the crowd at the foot of the fallen angel peak completely dispersed. "You're famous now. Be careful. Muyang Feng and the others will definitely come for revenge," Bai Qiu said. Lin Tian naturally understood what Bai Qiu meant. He kept Muyang Feng and the others at the fallen angel peak as coolies and even suppressed Muyang Feng's outstanding Sun Wei. With the temperament of those people, there was no way they would just let it go. However, he didn't care much about it. "It doesn't matter. I'll beat them up one by one." "Show off." Bai Qiu glared at Lin Tianyi and said, "Muyang Feng's deacons and peak masters won't interfere in this matter, but Muyang Feng's strongest disciple might be involved. I heard that he has reached the airborne realm. With your current cultivation, do you think you can deal with an airborne realm expert?" Lin Tian's eyes narrowed. He was very powerful now, but he didn't have much confidence in defeating an airborne realm expert. He looked at Bai Qiu and said with a smile, "Speaking of which, I seem to be in danger now. You'd better teach me a few of your by family's core secret techniques. Otherwise, I might be killed by Muyang Feng's strongest disciple." "Impossible. I told you, don't even think about it." Bai Qiu refused immediately. Lin Tian was speechless. "How heartless," he muttered to himself. "What did you say?" Bai Qiu stared at him. "I said you're as beautiful as a goddess and unparalleled in the world," Lin Tian said casually. Bai Qiu blushed slightly and said, "You have a glib tongue." Not long after, Bai Qiu also left and returned to the Wuji Peak. Gradually, stars appeared in the sky. Lin Tian glanced at the sky, shook his head, and walked towards the fallen immortal peak. Sea of Consciousness Array, Body Tempering Array. He stared ahead. There were two major formations on the fallen immortal peak. One was to help cultivate the Sea of Consciousness, and the other was to help temper the body. Although they were somewhat damaged, they were still somewhat useful. Lin Tian walked into the Knowledge Sea Array and activated the Heavenly One Soul mantra. He infused his soul energy into some of the runes on the array. Immediately, the array began to glow. Buzz! As the Great Formation began to operate, the power of the stars fell from the starry sky, dyeing the surroundings with a faint layer of silver light. Lin Tian suddenly felt his sea of consciousness tremble. In the light, his soul energy began to jump rhythmically. Even though he did not activate the four extremes meridians, his soul energy began to refine itself. This surprised him. He had only activated this great formation temporarily with his soul energy. At most, he had restored 40% of the original power of the Great Formation. However, it had such a miraculous effect. It was much more powerful than the Star River Pagoda of the Burning Sun sect. As expected of one of the top 10 sects of the Second Heavenly Domain, a broken Great Formation can have such power. Lin Tian was secretly surprised. He took a deep breath and calmed down. This chapter is not finished. Please turn the page. Immersing himself in cultivation. Not long ago, he had reached the 6th heavenly layer in the Demon Burial Valley. He had not had time to consolidate his cultivation. Now was the time. He knew that there was little difference between cultivation and construction. The foundation must be solid. He needed to walk on solid ground in every realm. Otherwise, it may create some obstacles in his future cultivation. Furthermore, making each realm a little more stable would also greatly increase one's combat strength. There were only benefits and no disadvantages. Buzz! A faint silver light surrounded his body. Inside the great formation of the fallen immortal peak, his soul energy became more and more crystal clear. In the blink of an eye, the night passed. In the early morning, the air was very good. The morning sun shone through the morning dew, emitting a faint 7-colored light. On the fallen immortal peak, Lin Tian was still sitting cross-legged in the great formation of the Sea of Consciousness, concentrating on consolidating his cultivation. It was not until another hour passed that he woke up and opened his eyes. Two rays of light flashed in his eyes. Lin Tian stood up and stretched his legs. Then he sat down again. "Let's see what the old man taught me," he muttered to himself. He closed his eyes and moved his soul energy. The four-symbol seal immediately appeared in his mind. Lin Tian already knew the power of the four-symbol seal. It was said to be able to seal all things in the world. It could seal people, ghosts, demons, gods, and even himself. He paused and began to read from the cultivation section. Since Bai Qiu said that the cultivators of the Sea of Consciousness could also cultivate the four-symbol seal, he naturally would not let go of a secret technique like the four-symbol seal. This was a supreme secret technique left behind by the ancient celestial lords. Once he could control it, his combat strength would increase greatly. He stared at it seriously. Soon, Lin Tian frowned. There were many things that were difficult to understand. From the cultivation of the four-symbol seal, in the beginning, one needed to form complicated internal seals in the body. In the later stages, not only did one need to form more complicated internal seals in the body, one also needed to form external seals to cooperate with the internal seals to guide the power. This made Lin Tian confused. He was really confused. Internal seals? External seals? Lin Tian was a little confused. He did not know anything about these two things. After a pause, he stood up, walked down the fallen immortal peak, and walked toward the sutra depository of Wuji Gate. He thought that there should be ancient books about internal seals and external seals in the sutra depository. There were many people coming and going in Wuji Gate. On this day, when they saw Lin Tian again, many of them looked wary. This is the new owner of the fallen immortal peak? Did he really detain Muyang Feng and the others in the fallen immortal peak as coolies? Nonsense, I saw it with my own eyes. He even suppressed Sun Wei, who was at the 8th level of the Sea of Consciousness. Even Sun Wei was suppressed? If he's so powerful, why did he go to the fallen immortal peak? Who knows? He's a weirdo. Anyway, don't mess with this crazy person in the future. Otherwise, you'll be in trouble. This guy looks very young and delicate. He's only 17 years old, but his methods are ruthless. Many people whispered to each other. Yesterday, Lin Tian suppressed Muyang Feng and the others in the fallen immortal peak as coolies. In the end, he even defeated Sun Wei, who was at the 8th level of the Sea of Consciousness, and destroyed Sun Wei's mid-grade treasure with his bare hands. This news spread throughout the Wuji Gate in the blink of an eye, making many people dumbfounded. Now, Lin Tian's name had spread throughout the Wuji Gate. Lin Tian could hear the voices of these people, but he did not pay them much attention. His expression did not change. He went to the sutra depository without any change in his expression. Soon, he came to the sutra depository. After searching for a while, he took out a book called Divine Powers and Magic Seals and started reading. Those who practice divine powers must first practice all kinds of magic seals. Lin Tian could not help but murmur to himself. This divine powers and magic seals seemed to be an introductory chapter before practicing divine powers, and it introduced the internal and external seals in detail. Lin Tian continued reading and found that the internal seal referred to vibrating the divine power or vital essence in the body, and using the divine consciousness to make the divine power or vital essence circulate in a specific way. The internal seal did not have a fixed circulation method, and it needed to be practiced according to different divine powers. However, this divine powers and magic seals said that before practicing divine powers, it was best to familiarize oneself with the seal techniques of the internal seal in a few fixed ways. Moreover, this divine powers and magic seals recorded several simple internal seal formation methods for beginners to practice. Lin Tianwei frowned slightly and turned to the back, landing on the external seal chapter. The so-called external seal was easier to understand than the internal seal. It was to make hand seals with both hands and cooperate with the internal seal to draw the divine power or vital essence in the body. Lin Tian studied seriously and found that the external seal had a clear classification. It was divided into 36 basic hand seals, and the external seal of all divine powers was formed by the combination of these 36 basic hand seals. The more profound the divine power's secret art, the more external seals it needed to condense. Ordinary divine powers and secret arts only need the internal seal, but some profound divine powers need to form both the internal and external seals at the same time. Lin Tian muttered to himself. Lin Tian scanned the four-symbol seal in his sea of consciousness. This supreme secret art was divided into 4 levels, and every level could be cultivated to condense a Tao diagram. When cultivating the first level, one only needed to form the internal seal in the body, and for the second, third, and fourth levels, one needed to combine the internal and external seals. Lin Tian became more serious, and when he looked down, he instantly felt a chill down his spine. Cultivating the second level of the four-symbol seal required a total of 3,600 external seals, and cultivating the third level of the four-symbol seal required a total of 18,000 external seals, and the fourth level of the four-symbol seal was even more exaggerated, requiring a total of 72,000 external seals. Lin Tian sucked in a breath of cold air. The second level of the four-symbol seal required 3,600 external seals, and the time between seals was very short. Once the required time was exceeded, the technique would fail. Moreover, in the process of condensing the seals, if any of the external seals were formed incorrectly, it would lead to failure, and the divine power would not be able to be displayed. Not to mention, in the process of condensing the external seals, one also needed to coordinate with the internal seals. In other words, one's divine power or Jin Yuan would have to vibrate 3,600 times, and there could be no mistakes. Lin Tian couldn't help but wipe the cold sweat from his forehead. This was the so-called Empyrean secret art. Was this something that could be successfully cultivated by a human? According to the records of the four-symbol seal, the 3,600 external seals and the 3,600 internal seals needed to be combined with each other, and it would take at least 20 breaths of time to complete. This was simply impossible. Lin Tian was a little confused. How was one supposed to cultivate this? Taking a deep breath, he calmed himself down and braced himself to continue reading. This ancient book also recorded that when one's cultivation had reached a certain level, when one's control of the technique had reached a certain level, when one's understanding of the great Tao had reached a certain level, when one's cultivation had reached a certain level, when one's control of the technique had reached a certain level, and when one's understanding of the great Tao had reached a certain level, it would become very simple to perform certain divine powers. It could be said that the condensation of the external and internal seals would be engraved on one's spirit, and it would become as instinctive as breathing. That old man has already reached such a level? Lin Tian muttered to himself. He remembered that an old drunkard had used the four-symbol seal to seal a section of the dragon horn demonic beast's arm, but it did not seem like he had formed an external seal. However, he was not sure if that was the first level of the four-symbol seal. After all, the first level of the four-symbol seal did not require the formation of an external seal. It only required the formation of an internal seal in one's physical body. End of chapter. Chapter 307. Reading on a mobile phone. An old drunkard had reached the level where he didn't need to condense an external seal. Lin Tian couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air as he stared at the seal of four symbols in his sea of consciousness. So many external and internal seals had to be condensed in a short period of time without any mistakes. The interval between seals had to be short and consistent. Moreover, he had to comprehend this divine power thoroughly to make the external and internal seals fit together. This level of difficulty was simply astonishing. Please search for the most complete version of this divine power. A novel by Lin Tian. No wonder it's said that ordinary people can't master the celestial master secret skill. This is really not something that ordinary people can successfully cultivate. Lin Tian shook his head. Taking a deep breath, he calmed himself down and carefully read the divine power magic seals. He memorized the methods of condensing the internal seals recorded in the Divine Power Magic Seals. After memorizing the 36 basic external seals, he put the Divine Power Magic Seals back in its original place and left the scripture depository for the fallen immortal peak. Not long after, Lin Tian returned to the fallen immortal peak and began to practice condensing the internal and external seals. He hadn't reached the connecting immortal realm and was still very far away. However, this had nothing to do with the condensation of the internal and external seals. Immediately, in the Sea of Consciousness array on the fallen immortal peak, he began to practice the condensation of the internal seals. The Divine Power Magic Seals in the Scripture Depository only recorded a few basic condensation methods of the internal seals. It was used to let beginners know what the internal seals were. Lin Tian followed the basic condensation methods and vibrated the vital essence in his body time and time again, allowing the vital essence in his body to flow according to the method of the internal seals. Then, he felt his body heating up. Buzz! As he condensed the internal seals according to the basic condensation methods, a little bit of light actually flowed out from the surface of his body. Just like this, a day passed in the blink of an eye. During this day, Lin Tian condensed the internal seals recorded in the Divine Power Magic Seals and had a certain understanding of the condensation of the internal seals. Then he began to practice the outer hand seals. The outer hand seals were divided into 36 basic hand seals. All the hand seals of divine abilities and secret arts were made up of 36 basic hand seals. These 36 hand seals were not very complicated. In about 2 days, Lin Tian had learned all 36 types of outer hand seals. It had to be said that because he had cultivated the 5 Dragon Divine Flash, he was able to condense the outer seal at an astonishing speed. This is really an unexpected surprise. Lin Tianwei was delighted. Because of the 5 Dragon God Flash, his 10 fingers were extremely nimble. In terms of the speed at which he formed seals, he had an advantage over everyone else. There were 36 hand seals, and each hand seal was a way to move the God power or true essence in the body, and needed to be used in conjunction with the internal seals. The faster the hand seals were formed, the better the God power or true essence would be, which was a good thing. Lin Tian repeatedly practiced the 36 types of external seals until another day had passed before he stopped. All right, let's begin the first layer of the 4-symbol seal. Lin Tian muttered to himself. The first layer of the 4-symbol seal only had internal seals. There were 3,600 internal seals, and there was no time limit. This was relatively easy. Of course, this was only relative to the second, third, and fourth layers of the 4-symbol seal. It was still much more difficult than other divine abilities because Lin Tian had seen in the divine ability seal that most divine abilities only had a few dozen internal seals. The first layer of the 4-symbol seal had 3,600 internal seals, and one had to comprehend the essence of the divine ability and memorize the order of all the internal seals. This level of difficulty was frighteningly high. However, although this surprised Lin Tian, it did not make him afraid. On the contrary, it aroused Lin Tian's strong determination to cultivate, because he believed that the more difficult a technique was to cultivate, the more powerful it would be. Moreover, he already knew that the 4-symbol seal was a supreme secret technique created by the ancient celestial masters, so he naturally would not give up on cultivating it. Huff! Taking a deep breath and exhaling a mouthful of turbid air, Lin Tian closed his eyes and began to cultivate. The first layer of the 4-symbol seal recorded the method of condensing the internal seals. Because Lin Tian had practiced several basic methods of condensing the internal seals and had a certain degree of control over the internal seals, it was much easier to cultivate the new internal seals. He spent 2 days comprehending the essence of the first layer of the 4-symbol seal, then began to cultivate according to the first layer's method of condensing the internal seals. When cultivating the first layer of the 4-symbol seal, the condensation of the internal seals was to vibrate the true essence in the body, causing the true essence to flow according to a predetermined pattern. This kind of flow was different from the true essence of martial arts. The true essence of martial arts usually flowed together with the true essence of the entire body, but the condensation of the internal seals was different. Perhaps the true essence of the upper limbs would flow with the flow, while the true essence of the lower limbs would flow in reverse. Some parts of the true essence would even rotate and flow in different patterns. Because of this, the cultivation of divine arts was often much more difficult than the cultivation of martial arts, and its power was also much greater. Of course, to say that divine arts were more powerful than martial arts was to say that the same person was using the martial arts or divine arts. If two different people were using the martial arts, then there was no comparison. For example, a Chaos Realm expert using a body refinement martial arts could easily kill a transcending immortal cultivator using a celestial master secret technique. 1. Lin Tianyi concentrated on condensing the internal seals, and the light outside his body became even more resplendent, giving birth to a dazzling radiance. Lin Tianyi condensed the 3,600 internal seals in his body one by one. The first time he made a mistake at the 53rd internal seal, the second time at the 100th internal seal, and the third time at the 200th internal seal. Very quickly, time passed, and Lin Tianyi made mistakes time and time again. It was only after 4 days that he was able to successfully condense the 1,300th internal seal without making any mistakes, and it took him a long time to do so. It's too difficult, Lin Tian muttered to himself. In the past, when he cultivated martial arts, even if it was a martial arts technique that ordinary people thought was impossible, he could master it within a few hours. But now, to cultivate the 4-symbol seal, including familiarizing himself with the internal and external seals, he had already spent about 10 days. After 10 days, he still hadn't learned the first layer of the 4-symbol seal. Shaking his head, Lin Tian smiled bitterly, stood up, and prepared to stretch his lower tibia. He had been cultivating continuously for several days, and he had been using fasting pills to pass the day, so he still needed to rest. Whoosh! It was noon. On the fallen immortal peak, a cool breeze blew, rolling up the fallen leaves, and it had the charm of autumn. Lin Tian sat on a wooden chair on the peak, raised his head, and squinted at the sky, feeling a little more relaxed. There were many ordinary old trees on the fallen immortal peak, and they grew very well. Lin Tian's wooden chair leaned against the edge of the forest, and from time to time, a few white rabbits and civet cats jumped out. They were not afraid of strangers at all, and they circled around Lin Tian, and some civet cats even climbed on his body. Lin Tian couldn't help but smile, but he didn't mind. He reached out and touched a small civet cat hanging on his shoulder. "You guys are really not afraid of people," he said with a smile. The civet cat on his shoulder tilted its head and looked at Lin Tian curiously. Lin Tian couldn't help but smile again. Since he embarked on the path of cultivation, although it hadn't been long, he had experienced many battles and killed many people. Now, sitting here with a small civet cat hanging on his shoulder without fear of him, he felt quite relaxed and comfortable. He moved his right hand slightly, took out an ordinary pill, and handed it to the small civet cat on his shoulder. The small civet cat took the pill from Lin Tian's hand, swallowed it, and chewed. Not long after, its eyes lit up, and it showed a happy expression, and it even squeaked twice. At this time, some of the other small animals at Lin Tian's feet seemed to have seen it as well. A rabbit stretched out its front paw and hugged Lin Tian's feet. A bird fell from the sky and laid on Lin Tian's body, and even a natural raccoon ran over, charmingly naive, and stared straight at Lin Tian. Lin Tian smiled and took out more pills from the stone ring, crushing them and giving them to these little guys. These pills were all obtained from the ancient tomb at Sunset Mountain. There was a lot of them, but they weren't of much use to him, so they were just left in the stone ring. It was better to give them to these little guys as rations, and they could be used to some extent. Thus, not long after, Lin Tian was surrounded by a dense group of small animals, all of which were not afraid of strangers. "Ah, I found a king of animals!" A crisp sound rang out. Bai Qiu ran up from the bottom of the mountain and found that Lin Tian was almost covered by a group of small animals and couldn't help but laugh. "I didn't expect that a person as fierce as you would be so popular with these little guys." Bai Chio said as he took a raccoon from Lin Tian. Lin Tian was speechless. Which eye of yours see that I'm fierce? You forced a group of people to work as laborers at fallen immortal peak, and you're saying that you're not fierce? Bai Chio curled his lips and said, although those people aren't good people, you're also very bad. I dare say that there's no one in Wuji Gate who's more vicious than you. Lin Tian was speechless. He didn't want to argue with Bai Chio, so he took out some pills and fed them to the small animals at his feet. You're feeding pills to rabbits and raccoons? You're so extravagant. Bai Chio glared at him. Do you like small animals? So what if I like them? And so what if I don't? Lin Tian said casually. Bai Chio grinned and said, no, I don't. If you like them, I can give you a snow spirit beast. It's comparable to a demon beast at the peak of the airborne realm. My family has a few of them. They're beautiful, docile, and cute. I often let them carry me around. Lin Tian was speechless. As expected of an ancient family, they actually had a few snow spirit beasts comparable to demon beasts at the peak of the airborne realm. It should be known that demon beasts could already transform into humans, but they were still kept as pets by the Bai family. Moreover, Mount Tianyao didn't come looking for them. This was enough to show how terrifying the strength and foundation of this family was. Do you want it? Bai Chio blinked. Lin Tian curled his lips. Give yourself to me? Bah! You're asking for a beating, Bai Chio said. Not long after, Lin Tian had enough rest. He stood up and walked toward the formation in his mind. Hey, where are you going? Bai Chio asked. I'm taking a bath. Do you want to come with me? Lin Tian said casually. Shameless. Chapter 308. Reading on a mobile phone. Lin Tian walked into the Knowledge Sea formation and continued to cultivate the first layer of the four-symbol seal, the inner seal. The essence of the inner seal was the special flow of divine power or vital essence. The so-called dozens of inner seals and hundreds of inner seals of many supernatural powers were just the complete flow of divine power of a supernatural power divided into dozens of stages and hundreds of stages, so that it was convenient to cultivate. Please search Product Percent Book Yin Yin Net to see the most complete. This was like a journey. A complete journey was divided into several points, first from the starting point to the second point, then from the second point to the third point, then from the third point to the fourth point, and then to the end in order. The principle was exactly the same. Buzz! Lin Tian sat cross-legged in the Knowledge Sea formation, and according to the records of the first layer of the four-symbol seal, his vital essence flowed time and time again. It had to be said that this was really a very difficult process. Until another 3 days passed, Lin Tian had only completed 3/5 of the first layer of the four-symbol seal. He had been cultivating in the Knowledge Sea formation for the past 3 days without rest. However, in addition to the hard work of the previous few days, he had only achieved this little result, which was completely incomparable to his previous martial technique cultivation. This made Lin Tian involuntarily produce a bitter smile. But even so, Lin Tian felt that his vital essence flowed more smoothly and was much stronger than before. This made Lin Tian slightly surprised, and then he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. The secret technique created by the ancient celestial lord was indeed extraordinary. Not only was it extremely powerful, but it could also make the cultivator's own power more condensed, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Taking a deep breath, he stood up and walked out of the Knowledge Sea formation. After cultivating continuously for 3 days, he felt that it was better to take a break. Squeak! The sound of a civet cat rang out, as if it had calculated Lin Tian's resting time. When Lin Tian had just walked out of the Knowledge Sea formation, almost all the little animals on the fallen fairy peak ran out and surrounded the ruined palace on the top of the fallen fairy peak. Seeing this, Lin Tian couldn't help but smile. Lying on the wooden chair by the forest, he took out some elixirs, crushed them, and distributed them to these little animals. After about 6 hours, Lin Tian rested for a while and went to the Knowledge Sea formation again to cultivate. The cultivation of the four-symbol seal was extremely difficult. Lin Tian sat cross-legged in the Knowledge Sea array, and several days passed in the blink of an eye. In the past few days, Bai Qiu had been running to the fallen immortal peak almost every day. She had an extraordinary temperament and was as lively as a fairy. On the Wuji Peak, most of the male disciples surrounded her all day long and followed behind her. This made her very depressed. "Hey, are you cultivating again?" Bai Qiu said as he stood outside the sea of consciousness formation. "Yes." Lin Tian grunted, but didn't open his eyes. Bai Qiu gritted her teeth. She had been coming to the fallen celestial peak every day for the past few days, but Lin Tian was so focused on cultivating that he did not pay any attention to her. This made her very angry. Compared to the people at Wuji Peak who always chased after her and made her feel irritated, she felt that Lin Tian was even more hateful. She actually left her in the cold. "This is too much," Bai Qiu said angrily, staring at Lin Tian from outside the knowledge sea formation. At this moment, Lin Tian's body suddenly emitted a faint divine light, and the shadow of a Tao diagram appeared in front of Lin Tian. However, it was only for a moment. The next moment, the Tao diagram shattered with a crack. "What was that just now?" Bai Qiu's eyes widened. In the formation, Lin Tian opened his eyes and clenched his fists slightly. A faint light flashed in his eyes. "It's about time," he muttered to himself. After more than 10 days, he finally managed to control the first layer of the four-symbol seal. "Next, I have to familiarize myself with it," Lin Tian thought to himself. Bai Qiu jumped over and grabbed Lin Tian. What was that just now?" "A martial technique," Lin Tian said casually. He would definitely use the four-symbol seal in the future, so it was not a big deal to let Bai Qiu see it. Moreover, the four-symbol seal was a secret technique created by the ancient heavenly venerables. Even if Bai Qiu saw it, she might not know what it was. "Liar!" Bai Qiu gritted her teeth. "That's definitely not a martial technique. It's a divine ability. And it's definitely not an ordinary divine ability. You're thinking too much. It's a martial technique." Lin Tiandao. "You're still lying to me? I'll bite you to death." Bai Qiu pounced over, and she really bit him. Lin Tian blushed with shame. Smelling the faint fragrance on Bai Qiu's body, a ripple appeared in his heart. At the same time, he felt a bit awkward, being pounced on by such a quick-witted girl and even biting him. This made him feel like he was in deep water and burning fire. "Little Qiu Qiu, pay attention to your image. You're the princess of an ancient family." Lin Tiandao. "So what? That's very unladylike. I'll bite you to death." Lin Tian. In the end, Lin Tian did not tell Bai Qiu about the four-symbol seal. He used various excuses to avoid it. "You're too much." Bai Qiu glared at Lin Tian. Lin Tianji smiled awkwardly. To be honest, Bai Qiu never hid anything from him, but there were many things that he could not tell her. This made him feel a little guilty. "Right, be careful." Muyang Feng's strongest student seems to be coming out soon. He might come after you, Bai Qiu said. Lin Tian's eyes narrowed for a moment before returning to normal. "Thanks." He smiled at Bai Qiu. Bai Qiu pouted. "Thanks? What are you going to thank me with? I have nothing but myself now. How about I give myself to you?" "Shameless." Bai Qiu turned around and ran down the fallen immortal peak after saying that to Lin Tianyi. Lin Tian smiled as he watched Bai Qiu run away. Then his expression became calm again. Muyang Feng's strongest student in the airborne realm. Lin Tian muttered to himself as he glanced at the fallen immortal peak. A faint light flashed in his eyes. "Since I've taken over this place, the fallen immortal peak is my current residence. I'll take some measures to protect myself. After all, I can't let others bully me in my own territory. That would be too embarrassing." Lin Tian stood up and walked into the ruined hall on the peak. There were many formation-controlling materials in his stone ring. On this day, he did not cultivate the four-symbol seal. Instead, he engraved the solitary lock rune and the martial fusion rune in the ruined hall. It took him 2 full days. He did not sleep or rest as he engraved more than 100 solitary lock runes and hundreds of martial fusion runes. He infused the 9 forms of the incinerating sun into the martial fusion rune scrolls. He then walked out of the ruined hall and buried the solitary lock rune scrolls and the martial fusion rune scrolls in every corner of the fallen immortal peak in an orderly manner. Done, Lin Tian muttered to himself. A faint light flashed in his eyes. He clapped his hands and walked to the side to rest. He fed the small animals that ran to his feet with crushed elixirs. Several hours passed in the blink of an eye. Several hours later, Lin Tian stood up and stretched his waist. Then he walked into the sea of consciousness formation to cultivate the four-symbol seal. He had already mastered the first level of the four-symbol seal. Now, he had to familiarize himself with it. Buzz! A faint silver light flickered. Lin Tian looked solemn. A moment later, a Tao diagram appeared in front of him. The Tao diagram trembled slightly and slowly rotated. There were mysterious Tao patterns intertwined on it. It was difficult to see through them. With the appearance of the Tao diagram, the surrounding air was slightly distorted and trembled. Obviously, it was affected by the power of the Tao diagram. Not long after, the Tao diagram shattered with a sizzle and turned into specks of starlight that entered Lin Tian's body. Again, Lin Tian muttered to himself. The vital essence in his body pulsated, and a faint silver light circulated. Not long after, the Tao diagram appeared again. In this world, everything needed to be practiced, and supernatural powers were no exception. Buzz! The light surrounded him. It was sacred, peaceful, and supreme. In the next few days, Lin Tian repeatedly used the first level of the four-symbol seal and finally reached the minor accomplishment realm. The so-called minor accomplishment referred to being able to use it more easily. As for the power, it was far from reaching the qualified level of the first level of the four-symbol seal. After all, he was only in the sea of consciousness realm now. After a short break from cultivation, Lin Tian walked out of the formation. Immediately, many small animals ran over. Lin Tian smiled. These days, he had gotten used to these little animals approaching him. He squatted down, rubbed the head of a civet cat, and took out some elixirs to separate them. Hey, the strongest disciple has come out of seclusion and is coming this way. A voice sounded. Bai Qiu ran up from the bottom of the fallen immortal peak. Almost at the same time, in the sky, a majestic wave of vital essence surged and turned into a black-robed young man. This black-robed young man was about 25 years old. His expression was extremely cold as he looked down at Lin Tian from the sky. Zheng Yi, first level of the Zephyr realm, the genius of Muyang foam. Bai Qiu leaned close to Lin Tian's ear and said. Lin Tian nodded and looked at the sky. Zheng Yi descended from the sky and landed on the peak, staring at Lin Tian. Eldest senior brother, it's him. Lu Cheng and the others appeared. They ran up from the bottom of the fallen immortal peak and stared at Lin Tian sinisterly. Lin Tian tilted his head and glanced at Lu Cheng and the others. Facing Lin Tian's cold gaze, Lu Cheng and the others trembled and couldn't help but take a few steps back. More than 10 days ago, Lin Tian's divine power still lingered in their hearts. Naturally, these people were afraid of him. Tilting his head, Lin Tian looked at Zheng Yi. On the peak, many small animals passed by Zheng Yi. He was not afraid. A civet cat reached out its paw and touched Zheng Yi. Boom! A surge of majestic spiritual ether spread out from Zheng Yi's body. It was mixed with cold, killing intent and swept around. The aura of an airborne realm fighter was not something that ordinary small animals could withstand. In an instant, dozens of rabbits, raccoons, and civets not far from Zheng Yi were all sent flying. They exploded in the air, and blood splashed all over the ground. Bai Qiu was furious. How can you do this? This is too much. Zheng Yi's expression was cold as he stared at Lin Tian. Kneel down and apologize. Zheng Yi said coldly. Lu Cheng and the others all stared at Lin Tian coldly. It was as if they were looking at a corpse. Lin Tian tilted his head and looked to the other side. A small civet cat's body fell on the ground. Only its head and the lower part of its throat were left. He still remembered that this little civet cat always hung on him. It was not afraid of him at all and always looked at him with sparkling eyes. Not far away was the body of a raccoon. For more than 10 days, it always leaned on him and asked for food. It was charmingly naive and very cute. Further away, a rabbit with golden fur was lying in a pool of blood. Not long ago, it used its 2 front paws to grab onto his trousers and try to climb onto him. Unfortunately, it did not succeed even once. Clang! A piercing sound of a sword rang out. A sword appeared in his hand, and the fiery sword light intertwined. "I'm going to kill you." Chapter 309. Raging spiritual ether surged. This was the first time Lin Tian had shown the 9 moves of the incinerating sun in front of the disciples of the Wuji Gate. His first move was the 4th move, Wind Tornado, which shocked everyone. Such a sword aura was indeed terrifying. He has mastered such a powerful martial arts technique. Damn thing. Looks like he's learning from his master. But then again, he's just showing off in front of an expert. Big Brother is already an airborne realm cultivator. He won't care about such an attack. Lu Cheng and the others looked gloomy. The 4th move of the incinerating sun swept toward Zheng Yi in the blink of an eye. Zheng Yi was still cold. He threw out a palm strike, which filled the air with palm prints and created dozens of flaming tornadoes. Airborne realm martial arts technique, soul-shattering palm. Big Brother has reached the airborne realm. He should be able to use the full power of the soul-shattering palm. "Big Brother, cripple him!" Miang Feng and the others shouted. Bai Qiu transmitted his voice to Lin Tian and said, "Be careful. He's an airborne realm cultivator. Don't compete with him with spiritual ether and martial arts techniques. It's hard to beat him. Get close to him first. Then use your powerful body, which is comparable to the 3rd firmament of the airborne realm, to deal with him." In Bai Qiu's opinion, Lin Tian was 3 levels lower than Zheng Yi. There was a gap between them, which was the sea of consciousness and the airborne realm. It was impossible for Lin Tian to beat Zheng Yi with spiritual ether and martial arts techniques. Zheng Yi's eyes were extremely cold. He looked down at Lin Tian like an emperor. "Kneel and apologize." "Bastard!" Bai Qiu glared at Zheng Yi, feeling rather upset. Lin Tian was expressionless. He swung his sword and then moved. Every step he took left afterimages as he approached at lightning speed. So fast. What kind of movement is that? Bai Qiu's expression changed. Zheng Yi's expression changed slightly. He backed away right away, barely avoiding Lin Tian's sword. "Why are you dodging?" Lin Tianling said. He swung the sword in his right hand, while at the same time, he clenched his left hand into a fist and threw a punch. With a boom, the air began to tremble. It was a powerful attack with extreme speed. Everyone could only see the afterimages of fists in the air. Zheng Yi's face turned even colder, and he retreated again. However, he underestimated Lin Tian's speed. In almost an instant, Lin Tian appeared in front of him, and his left fist came to Zheng Yi's chest. This made it difficult for Zheng Yi to dodge. He could only fold his hands together and use his palms to block Lin Tian's iron fists. With a bang, Zheng Yi's feet slammed into the ground, and he was knocked back 10 meters, leaving a deep mark on the ground. This eldest senior brother was actually, how is this possible? Lu Cheng and the others were horrified. Lin Tian's expression didn't change. He didn't give Zheng Yi the slightest chance to react. With a flash of his feet, he rushed over once again. At this time, it was as if he was stepping on Dao marks as he moved. Every step he took gave others the feeling of a natural Dao technique. It was as illusory as the drifting clouds in the sky, causing everyone to be shocked. They couldn't help but be dumbstruck. "I've never seen such a movement technique before. What is it? It seems to be even more powerful than our Bai family's divine Void Qi." Bai Qiu was extremely surprised. At this moment, Lin Tian's figure seemed like a dream. He followed Zheng Yi's figure closely, raised his sword and swung his fist, and engaged in close combat. Such a continuous attack made it difficult for Zheng Yi to parry. Firstly, he was shocked by Lin Tian's speed. Secondly, he was shocked by Lin Tian's physical body. He was indeed a threat to him. Lin Tian swung his left fist, and the air was buzzing. At the same time, the sound of the sword echoed continuously. Such a powerful aura spread far away in an instant. Not long after, many disciples of Wuji Gate gathered at the fallen immortal peak. After seeing the scene in front of them, all of them turned pale with fright. Isn't that Miang Feng's Zheng Yi? He's actually being suppressed. It's said that Zheng Yi has reached the level of flying. Could it be that the new master of the fallen immortal peak is also... No, I can feel that he's only at the 6th level of the sea of consciousness. Isn't this too abnormal? Everyone was greatly shocked. Originally, everyone thought that Lin Tian chose to stay at the fallen immortal peak because he was afraid that he would not pass the assessment of the 49 main peaks of Wuji Gate, so that he could fight for the identity of a disciple of Wuji Gate. However, later on, Lin Tian actually forcibly suppressed Miang Feng and the others to work hard at the peak. Even Sun Wei, who was at the 8th level of the sea of consciousness, was suppressed. This made these people's view of Lin Tian change dramatically. Now, these people were shocked again. In their eyes, Lin Tian was actually forcing Zheng Yi, the most powerful disciple of Miang Feng, to retreat. Enough, Zheng Yi said coldly. As a master of the airborne realm, he was actually forced to retreat by a cultivator of the sea of consciousness. This was a very embarrassing thing. With a boom, his powerful spiritual ether spread out and condensed into a light curtain in front of him, blocking Lin Tian. You're still far from it, Lin Tianling said and punched down hard. With a crack, the spiritual ether light curtain in front of Zheng Yi was instantly shattered into pieces. The spiritual ether light curtain of a master of the airborne realm was shattered with a punch. Damn it, this son of a B** is simply a human-shaped weapon. Many people were speechless. Bai Qiu's eyes widened. Although he knew that Lin Tian's physical body was very strong, he was still shocked. He was too strong. Zheng Ye's face was cold. A supreme treasure sword suddenly appeared and slashed at Lin Tian. High-tier supreme treasure, cloud-sundering sword, someone exclaimed. As soon as the cloud-sundering sword appeared, the air was distorted with a clang. The power of such a sword could be said to be extraordinary, and it immediately brought a lot of trouble to Lin Tian. Faced with such a sword, Lin Tian did not dare to meet it with just his fist. After all, it was a high-tier supreme treasure, and it contained the powerful spiritual ether of a master of the airborne realm. It was very terrifying. He took a step back and raised the sword in his right hand horizontally. The two swords collided with each other, and a clang was heard. Then, in the next moment, another crisp sound was heard. The treasure sword in Lin Tian's hand crumbled, directly disintegrating into pieces under Zheng Ye's sword. Zheng Yi stepped forward and slashed down with the cloud-sundering sword in his hand. Lin Tian retreated and avoided Zheng Ye's sword. Zheng Yi stepped forward and pressed forward again. The cloud-sundering sword slashed down again, and the air whizzed. Everyone could see obvious traces of distortion. This was a high-tier supreme treasure. In the hands of a master of the airborne realm, its power could be said to be terrifying. After the cloud-sundering sword appeared, Zheng Ye's aura became much stronger, making Lin Tian feel oppressed. His eyes were cold, and he stepped on the yin-yang puppet to dodge continuously and kept retreating. A master of the airborne realm is indeed a master of the airborne realm. He instantly suppressed Lin Tian. This is also very normal. After all, there is a gap of 3 small steps and a big realm between the two. How can he block it? As for before, he only relied on his extremely fast speed and powerful physical body to complete a surprise attack. In a head-on confrontation, there is no way Lin Tian can block Zheng Yi, who is in the airborne realm. This Lin Tian is going to be in trouble. Many people shook their heads. More than 10 days ago, Lin Tian suppressed Miang Feng and his group. Now, Miang Feng's most powerful disciple had appeared. Everyone knew why he was there without thinking. Naturally, it was impossible for them to just fight, and they would definitely make Lin Tian suffer. Lin Tian was expressionless. facing Zheng Yi, who was holding a high-tier supreme treasure. He could only keep dodging with the yin-yang puppet. A high-tier supreme treasure was enough to double the combat power of the wielder. In addition, Zheng Yi was in the airborne realm, so there was no way he could fight head-on. "Do you only know how to run?" Zheng Yi said coldly. As he said that, he slashed down with his sword again, shattering a wooden table not far away. "What are you so proud of? You are in the airborne realm, and you are using a high-tier supreme treasure. Why don't you go and fight an immortal expert?" Bai Qiu said, unhappily. Zheng Yi did not care and pressed down on Lin Tian coldly. "You should know what the consequences are if you insult me, Muyang Feng." Closing in on Lin Tian, Zheng Ye's spiritual ether surged all over his body, and he was domineering. "Remember not to be too arrogant in your next life." As soon as he said that, Zheng Yi slashed at Lin Tian's neck with his sword. This sword was merciless. It was obvious that he wanted to cut off Lin Tian's head without the slightest scruple. Such a sword strike caused everyone to be shocked. This is he trying to kill him? This is against the rules of the sect. Indeed. So what? That Lin Tianji is from the fallen immortal peak. Why would the sect care? The most important thing is that Zheng Yi is strong enough. He reached the airborne realm at the age of 25. He is a genius. Even if Lin Tian is a disciple of another peak, it is not a big deal that he is killed by Zheng Yi. Would the sect make things difficult for a genius expert who is alive for a dead person who is not very strong? Sigh. Don't sigh. This is normal. It is the same for other sections. It is a pity that this Lin Tian is really strong at such a young age. It is a pity that he did not grow up. Many people were discussing. A cold sword strike came in front of Lin Tian in the blink of an eye. "Be careful," Bai Qiu shouted. Lin Tian quickly retreated and avoided Zheng Ye's killing sword, but there was a trace of blood on his chest. "His speed is very fast," Zheng Yi said. As he said that, Zheng Yi held the cloud splitter sword and pressed toward Lin Tian again. "I will finish you with the next strike." Zheng Ye's voice was cold. The cloud splitter sword flashed with a cold light and pressed straight toward Lin Tian. "Do you really think you are invincible?" Lin Tianlong said. After saying that, he moved his mind. In an instant, the ground shook, and flaming sword light suddenly rushed into the sky. Clang! 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 The sword light flashed, and the flame was amazing. This was a terrifying scene. Dense flaming swords rushed out from the ground and covered the sky in the blink of an eye. Each of the flaming swords exuded an incomparably shocking aura, as if they could tear everything apart. What did he do? This is... sword? The sky is full of swords. Seeing this scene, everyone's face changed. Bai Qiu's eyes widened. Who is this guy? He actually learned such a strange skill. Is he a dragon master who can control the power of heaven and earth? No. These sword chi are all swords condensed by vital essence. He is not a dragon master. The dense flaming sword chi suddenly rushed out from the ground, which made her feel strange. Chapter 310. Reading on a mobile phone, dense flaming swords rushed high into the sky and spread across the field, causing everyone's expression to change. Please search product #BookYenNet to see the most complete novels. They're all flaming swords. What's going on? What did he do? Everyone was shocked. The flaming swords shrouded the sky and dyed the space with a layer of fiery red. The scorching aura was extremely threatening. Lin Tian's expression was cold. With a thought, a flaming sword slashed toward Zheng Yi. Clang! With a swing of the sword, the flaming sword dragged a long flaming tail, burning the air until it was distorted. Zheng Yi frowned, raised the cloud-sundering sword, and slashed forward casually. When the cloud-sundering sword came into contact with the flaming sword, it immediately made a shocking sound, and a strong force quickly surged from the sword. With a bang, Zheng Yi was pushed back more than 10 feet. Eldest senior brother, what's wrong? Lu Cheng and the others' expressions changed. At this moment, the flaming swords were densely packed in the sky, but Zheng Yi was pushed back more than 10 feet by one of the swords. This undoubtedly caused Lu Cheng and the others' hearts to tremble. At the same time, many onlookers were shocked and moved. Zheng Yi was actually pushed back more than 10 feet again. At this moment, the sword whistled again. This time, 3 flaming swords fell from the sky and pressed toward Zheng Yi from 3 different directions. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. The air became distorted under the scorching heat, causing many people's expressions to change. These swords were displayed by Lin Tian with the sword pattern in the palm of his right hand. They were inserted into the martial fusion mark, then connected with the solitary lock mark and buried underground. Now that he released the martial fusion mark with his mind, this kind of sword chi was naturally terrifying and shocking. Zheng Yi held his sword horizontally and swept out diagonally. With a clang, the dense sword chi vibrated and swept in all directions, directly shattering Lin Tian's 3 flaming swords. So powerful, as expected of eldest senior brother. That's right, everything is futile against eldest senior brother. Lu Cheng and the others sneered. Lin Tian stood in front of the ruined palace, his expression incomparably cold and calm. Clang! Another sword chime rang out. This time, there were a total of 10 flaming swords in the sky, slashing down. 10 blazing swords slashed toward Zheng Yi from 10 different directions. Zheng Yi's expression changed. This time, he was in trouble. Each of the 10 swords contained extremely terrifying power. Moreover, the speed of the swords had become extremely fast at this moment, making it difficult for him to shatter all of them in one go. However, even so, Zheng Yi did not panic. After sweeping away the first sword, he took a step to the side and swept away the second sword. In the blink of an eye, all 10 swords were shattered. All right, eldest brother is invincible. Cripple him. Lu Cheng and the others shouted. Zheng Yi's expression was indifferent as he stared at Lin Tian. Put away these useless tricks. They're useless in my eyes. Is that so? Lin Tianling replied coldly. As soon as he finished speaking, the ground under Zheng Yi's feet suddenly trembled. A large sword rushed out from the ground, its flames dazzling. This, another true origin sword rushed out. This guy, how did he do it? Sword chi rushed out from the ground. I have never seen such a method. Everyone stared at this scene with their eyes wide open. Zheng Yi's expression changed even more. He quickly retreated, dodging this sudden sword. Clang! The sword chime was ear-piercing. Almost at the same time, 12 flaming swords fell from the sky, blocking the surroundings and slashing vertically and horizontally. Such a dense attack with perfect timing. Even though Zheng Yi was extremely strong, it was difficult for him to avoid it. Puff! A flaming sword brushed past Zheng Yi's arm that was holding the sword, cutting off a part of his sleeve and leaving a deep sword mark. Zheng Yi shattered more than 10 flaming swords and retreated more than 50 feet. His right hand that was holding the sword could not stop bleeding. This scene was somewhat dazzling. Staring at this scene, Lu Cheng and the others' expressions all changed. Their eldest brother was actually injured. My God, he injured Zheng Yi. It's hard to imagine. I can't imagine such a thing happening. He is only in the 6th layer of the spiritual sea. What kind of method is this? I have never seen or heard of it. It's too shocking. Many onlookers were surprised. Bai Qiu was surprised. She stared straight at Lin Tian and gritted her teeth. This guy has a strange physique, and he has such a mysterious killing method. And that Dao diagram that suddenly appeared before has so many secrets. In the field, Lin Tian's expression was indifferent. He stood still. The dense flaming swords hovered above his head, supporting him as if he was an immortal sword god. Clang! The sword chime rang again. Staring at Zheng Yi, he moved his mind. This time, 15 flaming swords came out at the same time. The air was a little distorted from the burning. Everyone was attracted by the sword radiance. It was too dazzling. It was too powerful. Zheng Yi's expression became even colder. The cloud-splitting sword shook, and the dense sword radiance immediately swept out. However, The sun-incinerating sword that Lin Tian activated with the sword pattern was very powerful. Ordinary sword radiance could not destroy it at all. Whoosh! 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 The flaming swords broke through the air, almost sealing off the surroundings. They broke through Zheng Ye's sword shadows and attacked from all directions. Zheng Yi kept dodging, while at the same time, he slashed out one sword radiance after another. Suddenly, the ground where he landed shook again. Just like before, another flaming sword rushed up and brushed past his cheek, almost piercing his throat. Lin Tian's expression was indifferent. He raised his right hand, and 20 flaming swords came down again. With a clang, the swords shook, making everyone's heart tremble. Zheng Yi was moved. He quickly dodged, and the cloud-splitting sword in his hand kept slashing out. Faced with so many flaming swords, even someone as strong as Zheng Yi, who was an airborne realm cultivator, was in trouble at this time. Not only did he have to block the flaming swords coming from all directions, but he also had to be on guard against the flaming swords that occasionally rushed out from the ground. For a while, he became extremely passive and somewhat embarrassed. However, Zheng Yi was able to block so many flaming swords in such a situation because he was in the airborne realm. It was worth noting that the swords were activated by Lin Tian using the sword pattern in his palm. Its power was almost twice as strong as the 9 styles of the incinerating sun that Lin Tian usually used. If it were a cultivator in the Sea of Consciousness realm, they would have been cut into pieces. However, this scene fell into the eyes of everyone, and it was still extremely shocking. In the field, Zheng Yi kept dodging. His speed was very fast, and his expression was very cold. Lin Tian's eyes became even colder. With a move of his mind, the ground shook again. Under the ground where Zheng Yi stepped, flaming swords rushed up again, and the light of fire went straight into the sky. Clang! Behind Zheng Yi, 5 flaming swords rushed out, slashing at his head, neck, heart, lungs, and abdomen. Looking at this scene, everyone's heart palpitated. This guy is actually going for the kill right away. That is the strongest genius disciple of Muyang Feng, who is at the peak of glory, and he doesn't care at all? This is crazy. Many swallowed their saliva. Wuji Gate did not forbid fights between disciples of the sect, but killing fellow disciples was forbidden, and it was a violation of the sect's rules. Many onlookers were not surprised that Zheng Yi dared to kill Lin Tian. After all, Zheng Ye's identity and strength were there. He was the strongest disciple of Muyang Feng, and he would be the next peak master of Muyang Feng in the future. He was the backbone of Wuji Gate, and naturally, he would not care about the so-called sect rule of killing fellow disciples. But now, Lin Tian was just a disciple of the abandoned fallen immortal peak, and was not liked by the limitless immortal sect. However, at this moment, he actually did not have any scruples and directly attacked Zheng Yi, which caused everyone's hearts to palpitate. This was different from suppressing Sun Wei and the others to work hard in the fallen immortal peak. The difference in essence was too great. If he really killed Zheng Yi, it would definitely be a huge matter. Clang! The sword light rushed to the sky, clanging and slashing from all directions. Zheng Yi stepped on the ground to dodge, and from time to time, flaming swords would rush up from the ground, making him a little passive. He shook the cloud splitter sword, swinging away several flaming swords, and stepped into the sky. Standing in the sky, Zheng Yi looked down at Lin Tian, and the soul-shattering palm struck out. The sky trembled, and dozens of flaming swords were all pushed back outside of his body. He actually flew into the sky. How shameless! Wouldn't the flaming sword lose its attacking power if it rises from the ground? Bai Qiu gritted his teeth. Lin Tian looked up, his eyes cold, and a faint soul power surged out. There were hundreds of flaming swords in the sky. At this moment, as Lin Tian activated the divine one-soul technique, all the flaming swords vibrated together, and all of them emitted an ear-piercing sound, and at the same time, an extremely shocking flame light. Whoosh! 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 At this moment, the dense flaming swords vibrated at the same time and rushed at Zheng Yi at the same time. In an instant, the flaming swords completely enveloped all directions and directly trapped Zheng Yi in the middle. Such a scene made a lot of people feel a chill down their spines, and they could only swallow their saliva uncontrollably. This? Who can stop this? Some people's hearts palpitated. In the air, Zheng Yi's expression changed. The cloud splitter sword slashed horizontally, and the soul-shattering palms separated the air, shattering the flaming swords one after another. However, there were too many flaming swords in the air, and they were densely packed, attacking from all kinds of tricky angles. So Zheng Yi's situation was not much better than when he was on the ground, and instead became more miserable. Poof! A flaming sword brushed past Zheng Yi's thigh, leaving a trail of blood and almost cutting off his entire thigh. Chi! A flame swept from the left, brushing past Zheng Yi's chest and almost melting the skin on his chest. In the blink of an eye, Zheng Yi was attacked from the front and back, and even though he was in the Zephyr realm, he was still injured repeatedly and constantly injured. That Zheng Yi is actually being suppressed, and he looks a little miserable. This new guy, he's simply just the sixth firmament of the Sea of Consciousness, and he can actually force Zheng Yi, who is in the Zephyr realm, to such an extent. This, even if he wants to enter the Wuji Peak to cultivate, there should be no problem at all, but he came here. What exactly is he thinking? Everyone was shocked and puzzled. Eldest senior brother, Lu Cheng, and the others could not help but shout. At this moment, the scene in the air was a little shocking. The dense flaming swords were spread out in all directions, as if forming a cage of flaming swords, and trapped Zheng Yi in the center, so he could only passively dodge the attacks. In the blink of an eye, there were a few more bloody wounds on Zheng Yi's body, and he was scratched by the flaming swords. Enough! A cold voice sounded. With a boom, Zheng Yi's body emitted an even stronger wave, and in an instant, more than half of the flaming swords were broken. Looking down at Lin Tian from the sky, Zheng Yi's expression seemed to be more indifferent. Your means are really good, Sun Wei, and the others lost to you. And it's not wrong at all, but it ends here. As soon as the words fell, a blue light suddenly rushed out of Zheng Yi's body, like a sword light, and like a blade light, and in the blink of an eye, Zheng Yi was surrounded. Chi! 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 The flaming swords rushed over, but just as they approached, they were shattered by the blue light outside Zheng Yi's body. Lin Tian's expression was cold, but his eyes were slightly focused. That is, Muyang Feng's inherited magic, tomb falling immortal light. That's right, it's that inherited magic, which is said to be able to sweep everything down. Many people's expressions changed. Chapter 311. Reading on a mobile phone. Outside Zheng Yi's body, beams of blue light crisscrossed. Although there were still true origin fluctuations, there was a special kind of power, as if it was a kind of great Tao, causing all the approaching flaming swords to be blown away. Please search Product Percent Book Yin Yin Net to see the most complete novel. Bai Qiu's eyes narrowed. Remarkable power. She tilted her head to look at Lin Tian, and there was some worry in Bai Qiu's beautiful big eyes. Okay, eldest senior brother is the strongest. Kill him. Lu Cheng and the others shouted. After being suppressed by Lin Tian and being detained at the fallen celestial peak to do manual labor, they had lost a lot of face, and this group of people hated Lin Tian to the core. Lin Tian raised his head and looked at Zheng Yi in the sky. His eyes narrowed slightly, but his expression did not change. Kill, he said coldly. The clanging sound was endless, and all the flaming swords trembled together and swept towards Zheng Yi together. The sound of the air being pierced kept reverberating, and the dense flaming swords crisscrossed, causing the air to distort. Zheng Yi looked down at Lin Tian with an indifferent expression. Outside his body, there was a blue light circling. With just a slight shake, dozens of blue light beams shot out like sharp sword lights, instantly shattering the dozens of flaming swords that approached him. Lin Tian's expression did not change. With a slight thought, more flaming swords surged up. The sound of swords rang out. This time, he grouped the swords into 7 or 8 groups, forming the Big Dipper Sword Formation and the Octagonal Demon, subduing formation. Instantly, the power of the flaming swords in the air increased greatly, and they once again pressed toward Zheng Yi in the center. However, the blue light beams outside Zheng Ye's body were too powerful. Even though Lin Tian had formed the Big Dipper Sword formation and the octagonal demon subduing formation, they still could not block the blue light beams outside Zheng Ye's body. After a while, they were shattered again. "Don't waste your efforts," Zheng Yi said, looking down at Lin Tian from the sky. Zheng Yi was completely surrounded by the blue light beams, and he looked invincible. Chapter 312. Reading on a mobile phone, the Tao diagram was intertwined with mysterious runes. It was like a dream, emitting a faint silver light. It was a little dazzling. In the blink of an eye, the several tunefall immortal lights that were attacking them disappeared without a trace. "This is the Tao diagram from back then?" Bai Qiu's expression changed. When Lin Tian cultivated the four-symbol seal, Bai Qiu had once seen this Tao diagram by chance. At this moment, when she saw it once more, she noticed that compared to before, this Tao diagram had become even more condensed, and it actually possessed the dignified aura of an emperor, causing her heart to tremble. At the same time, everyone else's expression changed. "This is... the Tombfall immortal lights were actually devoured? I don't know, but it has indeed disappeared." Many people widened their eyes. Lu Cheng and the others were even more shocked. Their expressions suddenly changed. Zheng Ye's expression changed slightly. Staring at the Tao diagram in front of Lin Tian, his face darkened. "What is this?" The Tombfall immortal lights actually disappeared without a trace. This made him a little shocked. This had never happened before. Lin Tian stared at Zheng Yi, his expression unchanged, just like before. Swoosh! The air trembled slightly. He left an afterimage on the spot. Holding the Tao diagram in his right hand, he directly pressed it toward Zheng Yi. Zheng Ye's eyes narrowed. Dozens of Tombfall immortal lights quickly pressed toward Lin Tian. Swoosh! 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 The Tombfall immortal lights cut through the air like sharp arrows. The aura was imposing. "Kill! Pierce through him! Pierce through!" Lu Cheng and the others shouted. Everyone clenched their fists and stared at Lin Tian viciously. In the blink of an eye, the Tombfall immortal lights rushed in front of Lin Tian. Suddenly, everyone's eyes widened as they stared straight ahead. Lin Tian's face was expressionless. His right hand shook and directly pressed the Tao diagram. A few soft sounds were heard. The Tombfall immortal lights leaned against the Tao diagram and instantly disappeared like a small stream in the sea. The Tombfall immortal lights disappeared again? This was shattered by that diagram. That diagram, what exactly is it? I've never seen such a martial art technique. Many people's expressions changed. At this time, Lin Tian had already closed in on Zheng Yi and directly blasted a Tao diagram. Zheng Ye's expression changed. With a wave of his hand, the dense Tombfall immortal light engulfed Lin Tian. Lin Tian's expression didn't change. The Tao diagram trembled and pushed forward. Buzz! A faint light surrounded him, and the Tombfall immortal light that Zheng Yi had swept out instantly disappeared. Zheng Yi retreated, his expression changing drastically. "What the hell is this thing?" The Tombfall immortal light was extinguished several times before disappearing without a trace. This caused Zheng Yi to feel a trace of fear towards Lin Tian for the first time. "Guess," Lin Tianling said. The four symbols Tao diagram shook and directly pressed down on Zheng Yi. In truth, Lin Tian himself was also somewhat taken aback. The Tombfall immortal light was truly very powerful, capable of destroying everything. But at this moment, when he unleashed the Tao diagram of the first level of the four-symbol seal, he effortlessly destroyed the Tombfall immortal light. When he used the Tao diagram of the first level of the four-symbol seal to suppress the Tombfall immortal light, he felt as though the Tombfall immortal light was like air. Buzz! The Tao diagram trembled slightly, and a silver light surrounded it. At this time, he approached Zheng Yi. His right hand pressed down with the Tao diagram, while his left hand waved an iron fist and blasted toward Zheng Yi. "Sweep it down!" Zheng Yi shouted coldly, unleashing an even stronger tunefall immortal light, which turned into a storm that enveloped Lin Tian. Lin Tianling snorted, raising his right hand above his head. The four symbols Tao diagram trembled, instantly expanded, and slowly rotated. Qi! 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 The storm-like tunefall immortal light was instantly annihilated. The Tao diagram rotated. Lin Tian flicked his finger, and the Tao diagram above his head instantly rushed toward Zheng Yi. This! He threw it out. He actually threw it out. Many people's expressions changed. The Tao diagram was misty, like a flying disc, rushing toward Zheng Yi. Wherever it passed, all the tunefall immortal light disappeared. At the same time, Lin Tian's eyes were cold, and with each step, he instantly approached Zheng Yi. After throwing out that Tao diagram, what can you do if you come over yourself? You're courting death, Zheng Yi said coldly. Dodging the four symbols Tao diagram, Zheng Yi waved his hand, and the dense tunefall immortal light once again rushed towards Lin Tian. Lin Tian's expression was indifferent. He did not dodge and directly punched out. With a swish, the four symbols Tao diagram in the distance shattered, and in the next moment, a new Tao diagram appeared at the tip of his fist. Zheng Yi's expression changed. Swish, swish, swish sounds continued to sound, and the tunefall immortal light that rushed towards Lin Tian was instantly shattered. Moreover, Lin Tian's fist momentum did not change, relying on the four symbols Tao diagram, pressing forward. Zheng Yi was moved. His tunefall immortal light had no effect at all when encountering this Tao diagram. He only felt that it was sealed and swallowed by a supreme force, and it seemed very powerless. Facing the Tao diagram at the tip of Lin Tian's fist, he took a step to the side, and while moving 5 feet horizontally, he waved out more tunefall immortal light to suppress Lin Tian. Buzz! Lin Tian's expression did not change. The four symbols Tao diagram vibrated, and everything was wiped out cleanly. After that, he pressed forward again. Tyrannical true essence surged, and the two fought together. Tunefall immortal light, the four symbols Tao diagram, and gorgeous divine light crisscrossed. Clang! Zheng Yi waved the cloud-splitting sword, and a powerful sword chi slashed in all directions, pressing towards Lin Tian. Lin Tian's expression was indifferent. The Tao diagram shook, annihilating everything. He stuck close to Zheng Yi's side, stepping on the yin-yang dragon to move, and relying on the Tao diagram to blast Zheng Yi's body again and again. Swish! 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 The tunefall immortal light was shattered again and again, and Zheng Yi was forced to constantly retreat, looking very miserable. Zheng Yi's face was ashen. Now, not only the tunefall immortal light, his sword light, the soul-shattering palm, everything was ineffective under Lin Tian's Tao diagram. Only his speed and physical strength could fight with Lin Tian. But in these two areas, he was a little inferior to Lin Tian. Now, he could only use his vigorous true essence to activate the tunefall immortal light and force Lin Tian to wear him down. Let's see how long your Sea of Consciousness realm's true essence can last with your Tao diagram. Zheng Yi's face was cold. A dignified airborne realm expert was actually forced to such a point by a cultivator at the 6th level of the Sea of Consciousness. It was too embarrassing. Lin Tian snorted, without any emotion. The four symbols Tao diagram sealed the surroundings, constantly pressing towards Zheng Yi. Boom! 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 Violent energy fluctuations intertwined. In the blink of an eye, the two had fought for nearly 100 breaths. That Lin Tian seems to be suppressing Zheng Yi again. That Tao diagram seems to be able to make everything disappear. Fist shadows, sword light, true essence, magic, all are ineffective. Many people were shocked. At this time, Lu Cheng and the others' faces were particularly ugly, and they became very pale. Mu Yangfeng's strongest genius disciple, after using the Tombfall Immortal Light, was actually suppressed by Lin Tian. How? How could this be? Someone muttered. Bai Chio's eyes lit up, and he clenched his fists. It's definitely a magic, and it's a very powerful magic, enough to be compared to the core secret technique of our Bai family's Divine Sutra. Who is this guy? Boom! Lin Tian and Zheng Yi fought together. Relying on the Dao diagram of the first layer of the four-symbol seal, Zheng Yi was forced to retreat step by step. In the blink of an eye, another dozen breaths passed. Enough! Zheng Yi shouted with a cold face. After sweeping out the Tombfall Immortal Light, he directly flew into the sky and headed towards the sky. Bai Chio muttered, "This bastard is running into the sky again. He's too shameless." He has the advantage in terms of cultivation level and geography. In the sky and on the ground, there was no doubt that the person in the sky had the advantage in battle. At this moment, on the battlefield, the corners of Lin Tian's mouth curled up. With his back to everyone, a faint light appeared between his eyebrows, and a white lotus dagger flew out. Under the cover of powerful True Yuan, it instantly crossed the space and directly entered Zheng Ye's sea of consciousness through the back of his head. Ah! In an instant, Zheng Yi screamed. His body suddenly lost balance and fell to the ground. What happened? I didn't see anything. Everyone's expression changed. No one saw Lin Tian attack Zheng Yi, but at this moment, Zheng Yi screamed. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. He faced the falling Zheng Yi and dodged in a flash. In his right hand, the Dao diagram of the first layer of the four-symbol seal spun and was directly pushed out. It broke through the Tombfall Immortal Light outside the screaming Zheng Ye's body and pressed firmly on Zheng Ye's abdomen. Zheng Yi struggled out of the pain. Seeing this scene, his expression changed. "You, seal." Lin Tian's eyes were cold as he spat out a word. Zheng Yi screamed again. The Tombfall Immortal Light outside his body was instantly shattered, and all the true essence fluctuations disappeared. "In your words, this is the end." Lin Tian. His expression didn't change. He directly raised his right hand and punched Zheng Ye's cheek hard. With a bang, Zheng Yi was sent flying. Teeth mixed with blood floated in the air. After a while, he struggled to stand up. Zheng Yi clenched his fists tightly. Then, in the next moment, his expression changed again. "What did you do? Why can't my true essence flow?" Zheng Yi yelled. Zheng Yi wanted to activate the Tombfall Immortal Light, but he discovered that the true energy in his body seemed to be sealed by ice. He had no way to circulate it at all, not to mention the Tombfall Immortal Light. At this moment, he couldn't even execute the simplest of martial skills. What? True essence can't flow? How can this be? What's going on? It feels like Zheng Yi is no different from an ordinary person. Many people were shocked. Bai Chio's forehead emitted a dim light. She stared at Zheng Yi and was shocked. His true essence is sealed? Staring at Lin Tian again, Bai Chio's eyes widened. This guy, what is that Dao diagram? It can actually seal Jin Yuan. What did you do? Zheng Yi roared. With his true essence sealed and unable to flow, he felt like an ordinary person. This feeling made Zheng Yi feel a trace of fear. Lin Tian's figure flickered, appearing in front of Zheng Yi. His left hand grabbed Zheng Ye's hair, and his right hand clenched into a fist. He punched Zheng Ye's abdomen. Trespassing on my main peak and killing the little guys I fed, you can also taste the feeling of being trampled on. His voice was cold. He raised his right hand and grabbed Zheng Ye's arm. His right knee struck Zheng Ye's chest. Chapter 313. A Vicious Punch and a Knee Strike. Lin Tian did not hold back at all. Even though Zheng Yi had the physique of an airborne realm expert, he still found it hard to endure. He screamed on the spot and spat out a mouthful of essence blood. You bang! Lin Tian raised his leg and kicked Zheng Yi in the abdomen, sending him flying like a scarecrow. Zheng Yi crashed into a huge blue stone not far away. With a crisp sound, the blue stone was directly torn apart. It was obvious how hard Lin Tian's kick was. Muyang Feng is the strongest? Genius? Lin Tian's expression was indifferent. His steps were very gentle. He walked step by step to Zheng Yi, raised his hand, and slapped him. With a loud slap, Zheng Yi was sent flying again. A tooth mixed with blood floated in the air again, causing everyone's expression to change. Defeated, Zheng Yi, who was in the airborne realm, the strongest genius of Muyang Feng, was actually defeated by a newcomer. Everyone was stunned. Bang! With another crisp sound, Zheng Yi was sent flying and crashed into a big tree. The sound of bones breaking was heard. Zheng Yi spat out a mouthful of blood and roared angrily. He urged his spiritual ether to fly, but it was useless. The spiritual ether in his body seemed to be frozen, like a pool of stagnant water, unable to be used at all. What did you do to me? Zheng Yi roared. Shut up if you're trash, Lin Tianlong said. In a flash, he came in front of Zheng Yi again and used a simple kick. Zheng Yi was sent flying again, and 2 of his sternum were broken. Again, Lin Tianlong. He appeared in front of Zheng Yi and threw an uppercut, almost shattering Zheng Yi's chin. Senior brother! Damn it! Stop it! Lu Cheng and the others shouted, and some people rushed over. Lin Tian did not look back. He waved his right hand, and a fierce sword wind suddenly swept out. Lu Cheng and the others were all sent flying as if struck by lightning, vomiting blood. Oh my God! Too strong. This guy, everyone sucked in a cold breath. Such a realm, such terrifying battle prowess. It was simply shocking. Lin Tian didn't care about the crowd's expressions at all. He walked up to Zheng Yi again. Zheng Yi was already covered in blood. His face was extremely pale. He stared at Lin Tian in shock and anger. You, bang! Lin Tian raised his leg and kicked out. Without a doubt, Zheng Yi was sent flying again. He rubbed against the ground and rolled several feet away. Lin Tian's expression didn't change as he pressed forward again. This guy is really vicious, Bai Qiu mumbled. For a time, banging sounds rang out incessantly. Zheng Yi's screams also rang out incessantly. Lin Tian showed no mercy at all. He threw punches and kicks, almost breaking Zheng Yi apart. Clang! The sound of the sword rang out, and Lin Tian's eyes turned cold. Do you really want to kill him? It can't be. Everyone was shocked. The treasure sword in Lin Tian's hand flashed with a faint cold light. He didn't show any mercy at all and slashed at Zheng Yi's neck. Zheng Yi came here to humiliate him and kill him. He couldn't just beat Zheng Yi up. He wanted to humiliate him first. This chapter is not finished. Please turn the page. After that, kill him. The sound of the sword rose and directly pressed down. The eerie sword blade approached and soon reached Zheng Yi's neck. At this moment, Lin Tian's expression changed. A majestic force appeared from the sky and pressed down on him. He looked up and saw a middle-aged man in brown clothes in the sky. His expression was extremely cold. Master Muyang Feng. Everyone's expression changed. Muyang Feng walked down from the sky and swept Zheng Yi over. After a brief look, his face suddenly darkened. Trying to kill a fellow disciple in vain. Bastard! With a cold shout, Muyang Feng slapped at Lin Tian. With a boom, the powerful palm force was like a raging wave hitting the shore. It was terrifyingly powerful. Lin Tian's expression changed. This Muyang Feng was actually at the 9th heaven of the Zephyr realm. Boom! The palm force of the 9th heaven of the Zephyr realm was shockingly powerful and also shockingly fast. In the blink of an eye, it arrived in front of Lin Tian. Lin Tian couldn't dodge. With a shake of his right hand, the first layer of the 4-symbol seal condensed and faced forward. Facing this palm, the 4-symbol seal trembled. After holding on for a moment, it finally shattered with a crack. Bang! Lin Tian was sent flying and directly coughed out a mouthful of blood. The 4-symbol seal was very powerful, but his cultivation was too weak. He was a full 12 small realms lower than Muyang Feng, so it was naturally impossible for him to block the opponent's attack. In fact, being able to survive that palm was already heaven-defying enough. If not for the four symbols seal, with his current cultivation, it was impossible for him to block that palm. Lin Tian, Bai Qiu shouted and quickly ran over. Peak Master Mu Yang's expression changed. He didn't show any mercy in that palm strike. An ordinary cultivator at the early stage of the Void Flight realm would find it hard to survive. But now, a cultivator at the sixth celestial layer of Sea of Consciousness was actually able to block that palm strike. This made him somewhat surprised. After a pause, Mu Yangfeng's expression became even colder. He raised his hand again and pressed down on Lin Tian. It's over. All the onlookers felt a chill in their hearts and shook their heads. Who could block a ninth heaven of the Zephyr Realm cultivator? Lu Cheng and the others all had sinister expressions. They clenched their fists tightly, waiting for Mu Yangfeng to smash Lin Tian with a palm. Lin Tian's expression was solemn. Enduring the pain in his chest, he condensed the four-symbol seal again. At this moment, Bai Qiu flashed in front of him. Stop! Staring at Mu Yangfeng, Bai Qiu's face was slightly gloomy. Mu Yangfeng paused for a moment and immediately frowned. The direct descendant of the ancient Bai clan had entered the most powerful main peak of the limitless immortal sect. This matter was naturally known to the dozens of peak masters of the limitless immortal sect, and they were very clear about Bai Qiu's identity. Normally, no one would dare to interfere with what Bai Qiu did, and there were even some who vaguely hinted to their disciples to get close to Bai Qiu in order to establish a relationship with the Bai clan. At this moment, seeing Bai Qiu blocking in front of Lin Tian, Mu Yangfeng suddenly hesitated. It's just a conflict between the younger generation. Just a fight is enough. Mu Yangfeng, you're making a fuss over nothing. A laugh sounded. In the distance, another middle-aged man walked over with a faint smile on his face. Wuji Peak Master. He's here today? Many people were moved. Old Fox. Bai Qiu curled her lips. Wuji Peak Master stepped onto the top of the fallen immortal peak and heard Bai Qiu's voice. He couldn't help but laugh again. Little girl, I'm your Peak Master now. Can you not slander me? You're not even willing to teach me magic. Damn Peak Master. Bai Qiu muttered. Lin Tian leaned against Bai Qiu, so he heard Bai Qiu's voice clearly. He suddenly felt a little speechless. Wuji Peak Master obviously heard Bai Qiu's words as well. He just smiled and shook his head. He looked at Mu Yangfeng and said, Your disciple is Zheng Yi. It's not a big deal, so let's just forget about it. Wuji Peak Master looked at Lin Tian as he said this. A flash of light quickly flashed in his eyes. You can fight an airborne realm cultivator to such an extent with such a cultivation level. Rare. Very rare. I remember that your name is Lin Tian, right? How about it, Lin Tian? Are you willing to join Wuji Peak? As soon as this was said, everyone's expression changed. Wuji Peak, the most powerful and prosperous main peak of Wuji Gate. The inheritance has the Wuji secret art. That's a great magic passed down from ancient times. Many people's eyes lit up. In the distance, Lu Cheng and the others all turned pale. Their eyes were immediately filled with reluctance. Lin Tian Wei hesitated and was about to speak. However, at this moment a cold snore was heard. Mu Yangfeng said coldly, Peak Master Wuji, you have to think carefully. This person wants to join the Wuji Peak. It's hard to say what his intentions are. His background is a big problem. If he really joins Wuji Peak and secretly learns the secret art, it will be a great harm to Wuji Gate. It's fine. I believe in his character and background. Wuji Peak Master said. Glancing at Mu Yangfeng, Wuji Peak Master secretly said that he was ignorant. In these days, the peak masters of the main peaks had intentionally or unintentionally hinted their disciples to get close to Bai Qiu in order to establish a relationship with the ancient Bai family. Unfortunately, it was to no avail. However, at this moment, at a glance, it was obvious that Bai Qiu and Lin Tian were very close. As long as they could rope in Lin Tian, they would directly establish an ambiguous relationship with the Bai family. It was so simple, but Mu Yangfeng couldn't figure it out. Shaking his head secretly, Wuji Peak Master looked at Lin Tian with a smile. Young man, What do you think? Are you willing to join Wuji Peak? Lin Tian glanced at Muyang Feng and sneered in his heart. Only then did he look at Wuji Peak Master. Thank you for your kindness, Senior. I'm already used to the Fallen Fairy Peak. I want to stay here. He bowed and said, the Fallen Fairy Peak was not simple. It contained a big secret. He must get it. As soon as he said that, everyone's expression changed. What? This guy? Did I hear wrongly? Wuji Peak Master invited him twice, but he rejected him. Wuji Peak Master is the most powerful person below the sect leader and the Grand Elder. It is said that he is about to enter the celestial reaching realm. How could this guy reject such an important person's invitation? He rejected him. That's Wuji Peak. Everyone was shocked. Staring at Lin Tian, many onlookers felt that Lin Tian was too eccentric. They couldn't understand him at all. One was the abandoned Fallen Fairy Peak, while the other was the prosperous Wuji Peak. Even an idiot would choose the latter. However, Lin Tian chose the former. Wuji Peak Master was slightly stunned. Obviously, he didn't expect his invitation to be rejected. Why is that? It's too wasteful for someone like you to stay in the Fallen Fairy Peak. Wuji Peak Master was puzzled. My identity and background are big problems. It's better to let the sect test me for a while, Lin Tian said. As he said that, he glanced at Muyang Feng Peak Master. Muyang Feng Peak Master's face suddenly turned cold. An array of cold light appeared in his eyes. Lin Tian's words were obviously mocking him. Wuji Peak Master laughed. You're quite emotional. Interesting. Wuji Peak Master said, well, if you change your mind, you're welcome to come to the Wuji Peak at any time. Roping and Lin Tian could establish a relationship with the Bai family. Moreover, Lin Tian was very powerful himself. He definitely had the qualifications to join the Wuji Peak. What a sinister smile. He's like an old fox, Bai Qiu muttered. Muyang Feng Peak Master snorted coldly. He flicked his sleeves and left with Zheng Yi. Not long after, Wuji Peak Master also returned to the Wuji Peak. As for Lu Cheng and the others, they naturally ran away with their tails between their legs. At this time, only the onlookers were still at the foot of the mountain, staring at Lin Tian at the peak in surprise. Bai Qiu looked at Lin Tian with his big eyes as if he was looking at a rare beast. You're really powerful. Not as powerful as you. You managed to scare Muyang Feng Peak level 9 with just 2 words. Lin Tian laughed. End of chapter. Chapter 314. Bai Qiu tugged at Lin Tian and gritted her teeth. I feel like you're mocking me. Lin Tian was speechless. Little Qiu, we have to discover the truth, kindness, and beauty between people. I'm indeed praising you. It's not good for you to doubt me so casually. Bah! How dare a vicious person like you talk about truth, kindness, and beauty? Bai Qiu snapped. Lin Tian, he looked around. The ground of the fallen immortal peak was in ruins, and there were potholes everywhere. Shaking his head, he took a shovel and filled in some of the deep holes. After all, this was where he lived. It had to be presentable. Little Qiu, help me, he said. Bai Qiu immediately glared at him. How dare you make a virtuous girl like me dig and fill holes? Do you have any humanity left? Lin Tian. Zheng Yi was really strong. Their battle had caused a lot of damage to the fallen immortal peak. In addition, the Silence Lock rune and Martial Fusion rune that he had buried underground had also damaged a lot of the surface. It needed to be cleaned up. That was a little troublesome. What exactly is that Dao diagram of yours? Tell me honestly. Bai Qiu stared at Lin Tian Dao. It's a martial technique. Lin Tian did not even raise his head. Bai Qiu gritted her teeth and pounced. Let go. Are you a dog? I'll bite you to death. Lin Tian felt helpless. However, he definitely could not tell her the truth about the 4-symbol seal. Therefore, he could only passively endure Bai Qiu's vicious bite. That's too much, Bai Qiu said angrily, and those flaming swords that rushed out of the ground. What technique is that? Also, your movement technique is very powerful. Where did you learn it? And your fleshly body is a little too strong. It can actually repel my source energy. You're hiding too many secrets. Bai Qiu stared at Lin Tian without blinking. Lin Tian blushed with shame. He had no choice but to divert the topic from Bai Qiu. After spending a few hours, Lin Tian finally filled up the potholes on the fallen immortal peak. At this moment, some of the little fellows in the nearby old forest ran out again and quickly surrounded Lin Tian, all of them with bright eyes. "You little brat, you're actually so popular with these little animals." Bai Qiu was surprised. It's normal to have a good character. Lin Tian Dao. "Bah! Shameless." Bai Qiu cursed. Lin Tian laughed and didn't mind. He squatted down and took out some pills to feed the little guys beside him. "These little fellows are so cute. They are so intelligent and not afraid of people at all." Bai Qiu also squatted down. Indeed, very likable. Lin Tiandao. He was cultivating alone on the Wuji Peak, and it was more or less boring and lonely. During this period of time, these little fellows were not afraid of him. Although he was always feeding these little fellows, it was also equivalent to these little fellows accompanying him in disguise. Therefore, when Zheng Yi casually killed a group of little fellows, he was very angry and angry. Thinking of the defeated Zheng Yi, Lin Tian also felt that this period of cultivation was very meaningful. The four-symbol seal was indeed a heavenly venerate's secret technique. Although it was extremely difficult to cultivate, its power was undeniable. He looked at Bai Qiu squatting beside him and smiled. "How is it? Do you still think that it's countless times easier for your brother to suppress me than to drink water?" Bai Qiu glanced at Lin Tianyi and pursed his lips. "Admit defeat?" Lin Tianyi. "This chapter is not finished. Please turn the page, laugh. I didn't want to hurt you, but it seems that you don't want to accept it." Bai Qiu said angrily. "There are 3, 6, 9, and 3 of the same level. That Zheng Yi is nothing. Don't think that you are strong just because you defeated him. My brother has the Thunder God physique. 100 people of that level can only be suppressed with a raise of his hand. They can't even touch the corner of my brother's clothes." "Little girl, you're exaggerating." Lin Tiandao. "Who's exaggerating? Lord Miang Feng is very strong, isn't he? If we really fight, he may not be able to win against my brother." Bai Qiu said. Lin Tian was surprised. "How old is your brother? What realm is he in?" Lord Miang Feng had already reached flight tier 9, but he still might not be able to win against Bai Qiu's brother. 21 years old. I don't know his cultivation level, but it's countless times stronger than you are now. Bai Qiu said. Lin Tian. In fact, he did not think that Bai Qiu was lying. In that case, Bai Qiu's brother was really a monster. "Looks like I have to work harder to beat your brother," he subconsciously said. "What did you say?" Bai Qiu stared at him. Lin Tian was speechless and said awkwardly, "Sorry, I didn't do it on purpose. Ever since you said that your brother suppressed me countless times easier than drinking water, I inexplicably have an instinct to beat your brother up." "You." Bai Qiu was so angry that her silver teeth kept grinding. Lin Tian shifted his gaze away and fed the little animals beside him with pills. "You really have a lot of pills." Bai Qiu squinted. "I accidentally entered an ancient tomb before and found a lot of pills inside. Unfortunately, they are not of much use to me." Bai Qiu was a little curious. "Ancient tomb? How big is it? What does it look like?" Lin Tian thought about it and described it slightly. Bai Qiu lost interest. Just by looking at the goo corpse protecting the tomb, it should be a flying cultivator's tomb. There are many small tombs like that in this heaven domain. It is nothing. Bai Qiu naturally did not know that the tomb Lin Tian found was in the first heaven domain. He only thought that Lin Tian found it in the old forests of this heaven domain. He said, "The tombs of true experts will not have low-level things like goo corpses. Just the corpse energy of the tomb owner's corpse can give birth to endless Een spirits and yikshas. It can even cause the Een spirits to develop rotten flesh. It is very dangerous. Just the corpse energy of a corpse can give birth to Een spirits? And it can even cause Een spirits to develop flesh? So exaggerated?" Lin Tianyi was shocked. Otherwise, how could he be worthy of the word expert? Bai Qiu said, In one of the ancient books of our Bai family, there are some ancient tombs of primal chaos realm experts. In the endless river of time, the ancient tombs would even give birth to something like the Saint. Ordinary Nirvana realm experts are no match for it. They would die if they encounter it. It is extremely terrifying and evil. Lin Tian heard this and could not help but gasp. He had heard of Saints, but he did not expect them to be so terrifying. Ordinary Nirvana realm experts were no match for them. Are there many tombs in this heaven domain? He asked. There are a few. They have been opened several times in the past, and many people died. Bai Qiu said. Lin Tian nodded and did not ask anymore. He continued to play with the little guys at his feet. Bai Qiu picked up a bear cub from Lin Tian's side and played with it. He said, speaking of which, some things are finally over. You defeated Muyang Feng's strongest disciple, and that old fox from Wuji Peak even sent you an invitation. There should be no more trouble for you. You can search for divination divine arts in peace. Over? Lin Tianling smiled. It's not that simple. Is there anything else? Bai Qiu was puzzled. Yes. Lin Tianyi smiled. Bai Qiu was puzzled. What is it? There shouldn't be anything else. There is. Lin Tiandao. As he spoke, he continued to play with the little guys at his feet. At this time, Muyang Feng. Zheng Ye's bones were broken, and his clothes were torn. He was lying on the bed. At the side, Peak Master Mu Yang's expression was somewhat solemn. After taking Zheng Yi away from the fallen immortal peak, he discovered that Zheng Ye's true yuan had stopped flowing. He tried to activate it with his own true yuan, but it was completely ineffective. What's going on? Muyang Feng said in a deep voice. Zheng Ye's face was slightly pale. I don't know. He has a very strange technique that can condense into a Dao diagram. That Dao diagram seems to be able to annihilate everything. I used the Tombfall Immortal Light, but it was useless. Later, I was hit in the abdomen by that Dao diagram, and then it became like this. I can't use my vital essence anymore. Muyang Feng took the initiative. From what you said, it should be a kind of divine art, and it's stronger than the Tombfall Immortal Light. Muyang Feng's eyes flickered, cold, surprised, and all kinds of emotions were constantly changing. Master, please help me, Zheng Yi cried. At this moment, the vital essence in his body was not moving at all. He was like an ordinary person, unable to fly, unable to use martial arts, and unable to use divine arts. This made Zheng Yi feel incomparable fear, as if he had no future. You are my disciple. Of course I will help you, Muyang Feng said. However, in the next few days, Muyang Feng tried many methods and even asked the Wuji Peak Master and other Peak Masters for help. He tried many divine arts and secret techniques, but he still could not solve Zheng Ye's predicament. He could not make his vital essence flow. Interesting, a Sea of Knowledge level cultivator actually has such a special technique. I can't do anything about it. It's very mysterious. The Gate Master and Grand Elder should be able to solve it, but the two of them are in seclusion. It's not good to disturb them. In that case, whoever tied the bell should untie it. For the time being, we can only look for that person called Lin Tian. Some Peak Masters said, in the blink of an eye, 2 days had passed. Lin Tian had won the battle with the strongest person on Muyang Peak, Zheng Yi. This news had spread throughout the entire Limitless Immortal Sect, causing all the disciples of the Limitless Immortal Sect to turn pale with fright. A new disciple, a disciple who lived in the abandoned fallen immortal peak, actually defeated the strongest genius of Muyang Feng. It's hard to imagine. Such a person actually went to the abandoned fallen immortal peak? It's so weird. What's the big deal? The Wuji Peak Master invited that guy to cultivate in the Wuji Peak, but he was rejected directly. What? How could such a thing happen? That's right. I saw it with my own eyes. That guy is too weird. Many people were talking about it. Lin Tian heard some of these voices, but he did not care. He quietly cultivated in the fallen immortal peak. Bai Qiu did not like to be pestered by the disciples of other peaks, so he always went to Lin Tian's place. Soon another day passed. On this day, Lin Tian had just finished his cultivation and was feeding the little fellows on the mountain with Bai Chio when a familiar wave of powerful vibration suddenly rushed over from afar, turning into a middle-aged man in brown robes. He was the master of Muyang Peak. End of this chapter. Chapter 315. Reading on a mobile phone. Lin Tian stood up, glanced at Muyang Feng, and said to Bai Chio beside him, "I said there's something else." Bai Chio looked at Muyang Feng, slightly surprised. Peak Master Mu saw that Bai Chio was also here, and his face darkened slightly. He said to Lin Tiandao, "What did you do to Zheng Yi?" "What?" Lin Tian asked. Seeing that Lin Tian actually pretended to be confused, Muyang Feng's face darkened even more. "Zheng Ye's vital essence has been sealed." "Is that so? How pitiful." Lin Tiandao. He did not have a good impression of this Muyang Feng at all, so naturally, he would not be polite. Bai Chio snickered. She finally understood what Lin Tian meant by, "There's something else." It turned out that Zheng Ye's vital essence had not been unsealed until now. Then, she could not help but be a little surprised. What exactly was that Dao diagram? It actually sealed Zheng Ye's vital essence until now. And judging from the fact that Muyang Feng came here to look for Lin Tian, it was obvious that even Muyang Feng, a powerhouse at the peak of the flight stage, could not unseal the seal. This made her a little shocked. Muyang Feng's face turned cold, and he said coldly, "Let Zheng Ye's vital essence recover, and this matter will be over." Hearing this, Lin Tian immediately laughed. Then, he no longer gave Muyang Feng any face. Muyang Feng's disciple repeatedly came to the fallen celestial peak to cause trouble for me. Zheng Yi clearly knew that killing a fellow disciple violated the sex rules, but he still came to kill me. Now, he's just receiving a little punishment. He deserves it. Lin Tianling smiled and said, "You want me to help him recover his vital essence, and then this matter will be over. Are you trying to say that you're showing me mercy?" Muyang Feng's face was cold. He originally wanted to directly suppress Lin Tian, but seeing that Bai Chio was beside him, he could only suppress it. "What do you want to unseal the seal? Wouldn't it have been better if it had been like this from the start? Why bother beating around the bush?" Lin Tian smiled. Muyang Feng's face darkened. "State your conditions." Lin Tian stroked his chin. After pondering for a moment, he said, "How about this? I happen to lack a suitable weapon right now. Just give me a high-grade supreme treasure sword. Then, as you know, when I stay at the fallen immortal peak, other than the identity of a disciple of the Wuji Gate, the sect will not give me any cultivation resources. I can't learn any profound martial arts or powerful supernatural powers. As the master of Muyang Feng, you should be able to teach me these things. Just teach me the 10 most famous martial arts of Muyang Feng and the supernatural power of the fallen immortal light." Beside him, Bai Chio could not help but open his mouth wide. He stared at Lin Tian dumbfounded. This guy really knew how to talk. Muyang Feng's face darkened. Then, a faint light flashed in his eyes. He said, "You want to learn the 10 great martial arts and the fallen immortal light? Sure, but give me your Dao diagram, supernatural power in exchange." According to Zheng Yi, Lin Tian's Dao diagram could silently annihilate the Tomb Fall immortal light, which meant that it was definitely stronger than the Tomb Fall immortal light. If he could exchange one of the top 10 martial arts techniques and the Tomb Fall immortal light for such a sacred art, he would definitely be willing. Limitless Sect Master and Grand Elder would also be happy. Exchange? Don't be mistaken. You are the one begging me now. Lin Tianling smiled. Muyang Feng clenched his fists. Cold light flashed in his eyes. He really wanted to slap Lin Tian to death. High-grade supreme treasure, 10 great martial arts, fallen immortal light. Young man, don't be too greedy. I'm afraid you can't swallow it. You don't have to worry about that. I have a good appetite. Lin Tian Dao. Muyang Feng stared at Lin Tian. Finally, he flicked his sleeves and flew into the sky with a cold expression. A friendly reminder. You have 5 days at most. If no one dissolves the technique in 5 days, your disciple will be crippled. Lin Tian shouted into the distance. Muyang Feng trembled and left the range of the fallen immortal peak in a flash. The corners of Lin Tian's mouth curled up as he clapped his hands. Bai Qiu tilted his head and looked at Lin Tian. You are so bad. You are too much. You are obviously a cultivator of the Wuji Gate, but you dare to threaten a peak leader of the Wuji Gate like this. No one in history is worse than you. Bai Qiu blinked and stared at Lin Tian. He laughed again. But I like it. It's very interesting. Of course you think it's interesting. With such a good family background, even if you ran over and beat up the Wuji Gate sect leader and Grand Elder, the Wuji Gate wouldn't dare to do anything to you. In fact, I think they wouldn't even dare to say anything harsh. Lin Tian smiled and said, I am different. You have to know that I am walking on the edge of a cliff right now. I can fall off the cliff at any time. In other words, I am suffering because of my pride. Bai Qiu blinked and thought for a moment. Then, she ground her teeth. I can tell that you are insulting me again. I am obviously envious of you. I will bite you to death. Bai Qiu pounced. Lin Tian. After biting for a while, Bai Qiu finally stopped. You are threatening Miang Feng like this. Perhaps he will really do something to you. Oh, how about this? I will stay at the fallen immortal peak for the time being to protect you. Bai Qiu said. Wipe off the saliva that came out when you bit me. After all, you have to maintain your image as a lady. I will bite you to death. One had to admit that Bai Qiu's intuition was quite accurate. In the next 2 days, Miang Feng did come a few times. There were a few times when he emitted killing intent, but in the end, he could only leave helplessly. After all, Bai Qiu was still on the same side as Lin Tian. On the 3rd day, Miang Feng came to the fallen immortal peak again. I can't teach you the top 10 martial arts techniques and the fallen immortal light. I can't teach you a high-grade supreme treasure, but I can give you a low-grade supreme treasure sword. Please leave. Lin Tian directly asked him to leave. Bai Qiu was speechless. This guy really treated the fallen immortal peak as his own backyard. Miang Feng's face was gloomy. He flicked his sleeves and left directly. You really asked for too much. Just the top 10 martial arts techniques and the fallen immortal light, I definitely can't teach you. Bai Qiu said. Lin Tian nodded. Of course I know this. Then why did you? Bai Qiu was confused. Then why did I ask for it? Lin Tian said with a smile. If I didn't ask for more in the beginning, how could I bargain with that old guy later on? Bai Qiu was stunned for a moment before he reacted. How sinister. You flatter me. It's all for the sake of living. Lin Tian chuckled. Bah! You've tarnished the word living. Bai Qiu said. Lin Tian was speechless. Next, Miang Feng came to the fallen immortal peak a few more times. Zheng Yi was sealed. The Wuji Gate's Gate Master and Grand Elder might have the ability to undo it, but Miang Feng wouldn't disturb the seclusion of these 2 big shots for such a small matter. Within 5 days, if the technique wasn't undone, Zheng Yi would be crippled. Zheng Yi was able to reach the Zephyr level at the age of 25. His aptitude was indeed extraordinary. It wasn't easy to find such a disciple. If he was really crippled, it would be a great pity. 3 low-grade supreme treasures. Please leave. Middle-grade supreme treasures. Ha! 2 mid-grade supreme treasures, and some elixirs and precious herbs. Please leave. Young man, don't be too greedy. Don't go too far. Little Qiu, see the guest out. I'm here. Bai Qiu ran in front of Peak Master Muyang and said, Peak Master, please go ahead and ask. Muyang Feng's veins were throbbing. He really wanted to tear Lin Tian apart. This bastard was obviously using his power to intimidate others. Muyang Feng flicked his sleeves fiercely and left again. Old man, you're welcome to come again. Bai Qiu shouted. Muyang Feng trembled and almost fell from the sky. After peak leader Muyang left, Bai Qiu tilted his head and said to Lin Tian, How was it? Was my performance all right? Lin Tian didn't say anything and gave Bai Qiu a thumbs up. Hee hee. Bai Qiu smiled proudly. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, the 5-day deadline was up. Muyang Feng had no choice but to come to the fallen celestial peak and negotiate with Lin Tian. At this time, Lin Tian grasped the opportunity. In the end, he helped Zheng Yi break the 4-symbol seal with an upper-grade Supreme Treasure Sword and 2 mid-grade Supreme Treasure Swords. At the same time, he also asked for thousands of ordinary elixirs to feed the little guys on the peak. You bastard. Not only did you ask for Supreme Treasures, you even asked Miang Feng for elixirs to feed the little animals. You really don't care about elixirs at all. How extravagant. Bai Qiu was speechless. These are the lowest grade elixirs. They don't have much value. Compared to Supreme Treasures, they are like sand. I asked for thousands of elixirs at the end, and Miang Feng definitely wouldn't refuse. Since I knew he wouldn't refuse, why wouldn't I ask for them? I would rather use them to feed the little guys than keep them for him. Lin Tiandao. You bastard. You're too cunning. Too shameless. Bai Qiu snickered and said, but it's really interesting. Lin Tianyi smiled and said, if there's a chance next time, let's work together and trick that old bastard again. Work together? It won't do me any good. Bai Qiu pouted. Didn't I give you the 2 mid-grade Supreme Treasure Swords? You didn't want them. Those things are useless to me. Lin Tian. As expected of the princess of a great family, her vision is indeed different. He muttered. What did you say? Nothing. After tricking Miang Feng, Bai Qiu didn't leave the fallen celestial peak immediately. She stayed there temporarily. She only went down the mountain occasionally to run for a while. In her words, she was checking the terrain and looking for the precious technique left behind by the ancient celestial venerables. Lin Tian didn't say anything about that. He just cultivated quietly on the peak. Buzz! He sat cross-legged in the spiritual sea array. Spots of brilliant light wrapped around his body. It was very dazzling. After cultivating the first layer of the 4-symbol seal and fighting with Zheng Yi, who was in the Zephyr realm, Lin Tian found that his cultivation had improved by quite a bit. The true origin flowing in his body had become several times more condensed. His divine sense had also become more crystal clear, shining brightly in his spiritual sea. It seemed that he would soon enter the 7th layer of the spiritual sea. Lin Tian nodded. He took a deep breath and continued to cultivate. Chapter 316. Reading on a mobile phone, Lin Tian woke up from his cultivation and looked at Bai Qiu in confusion. The tomb of the Pill King? Bai Qiu nodded and said excitedly. More than 1,000 years ago, there was a very powerful alchemist in this realm. Not only was his alchemy skills top-notch, but his cultivation had also reached the immortal realm. Later on, when the alchemist's lifespan was about to run out, he buried himself and his Baodan in a certain place. Please search product #book YinNet to see the most complete. Over the years, many people have been searching for that alchemist's tomb, but to no avail. Who would have thought that someone would find some clues now? Alchemist? Is it someone who refines pills? Lin Tianandao asked. Yes. Bai Qiu said, that alchemist from 1,000 years ago was indeed very powerful. Back then, he made pills for many powerful factions. There must be all kinds of Baodan in his tomb. It's said that there's a Baodan that can allow a cultivator to reach the Zephyr realm from the spiritual sea level 9. That's a 4th grade pill. Its value is shockingly high. 4th grade pills? Lin Tianwei was puzzled. He remembered that pills were divided into grades, but he didn't really understand. Bai Qiu saw through Lin Tian's confusion and said, You're so stupid. You don't even know the grades of pills. I really don't know how you've cultivated to this level. She continued, pills are divided into 9 grades. From low to high, they are 1st grade Baodan, 2nd grade Baodan, 3rd grade Baodan, 4th grade Baodan, 5th grade Baodan, 6th grade Baodan, 7th grade Baodan, 8th grade Baodan, and 9th grade Baodan. Each grade is further divided into 3 grades, low grade, mid grade, and high grade. For example, the fasting pill is the lowest grade, 1st grade low grade Baodan. Lin Tian nodded. Understood. Bai Qiu tugged on Lin Tiandao's arm. Now that you understand, hurry and get up. The location of the pharmacist's immortal mausoleum has just been discovered, and it hasn't been opened yet. We have to hurry over. If we're late, the Baodan will be taken away. What's the rush? It's not that easy to enter the tomb of a transcending immortal. Lin Tian was speechless. That's true, but there's no harm in going early, Bai Qiu said. Since Bai Qiu had already said so, Lin Tian naturally couldn't find any words to refute. After a simple packing, the two of them walked out of Wuji Gate and directly flew in a certain direction using the artifact control technique. How far? Lin Tian asked Bai Qiu. If it's the artifact control technique, it'll take about a day. As Bai Qiu spoke, he clenched his small fists again, and his eyes were full of light. It's too troublesome to use the artifact control technique. I have to reach the flight realm as soon as possible. It's much faster to fly independently than to use the artifact control technique. It had to be said that on this point, Lin Tian and Bai Qiu had the same feeling, which was rare. The two of them had extraordinary strength, so they could use the artifact control technique very well. About 18 hours later, a withered and empty land appeared in front of them. The dry ground was full of cracks, and there wasn't even a blade of grass to be seen. "We're here," Bai Qiu said. The two of them put away the artifact control technique and landed on one side of the ground. This place, Lin Tian frowned. The ground was withered and yellow, and there wasn't even a blade of grass growing. However, the air wasn't dry and hot, which was obviously not a good sign. If there's a big tomb down there, it's not difficult to understand. It's normal for trees to be affected by the yin qi, Bai Qiu said. At this time, many people had gathered in front of them. Lin Tianwei glanced at them and found that none of them were weak. The weakest one was at the 9th layer of the divine vein realm. Moreover, there weren't many people at this level, and most of them were at the sea of consciousness realm. This made him sigh. The 2nd layer of heaven was indeed different. It was much stronger than the 1st layer of heaven. The two didn't get close to the crowd. They silently stood to the side and stared ahead. There, many cultivators were working together, using sword energy and saber energy to excavate the earth. They wanted to open a path to the underground, because everyone who came here believed that the tomb of the powerful alchemist from more than 1,000 years ago was being nurtured here. Too slow. It's equivalent to the speed of a turtle. Let me do it. Those who haven't reached the sea of consciousness realm, step back. We'll do it. Many experts stepped forward. With a loud boom, the earth trembled and clouds of dust rose into the air. Then, more sea of consciousness realm cultivators rushed up and dug the ground together. They're really going all out, Lin Tian muttered to himself. Bai Qiu squatted at the side, glanced at Lin Tianyi, and said, "What do you know? There are many treasures in the alchemist's tomb. Not only are there all kinds of Baodan, there should also be a lot of precious weapons. After all, the major forces would often ask alchemists to help them refine some special pills, and then they would naturally reward them handsomely. More than 1,000 years ago, that alchemist had dealings with many major forces, including the 2 Holy Lands. He was very rich." Lin Tian nodded and continued to stare ahead. At this time, with a bang, the ground in front of them suddenly collapsed, and a sealed stone door appeared underground. "Found it," someone exclaimed. The stone door was made of green light rock. It was full of dust, and there were some carvings on it. Most of them were plants. Suddenly, the crowd was excited. "Let's go! Let's go!" Bai Qiu said. Lin Tian stood up and followed Bai Qiu to the front. In front of them, someone pushed the stone door. After a few breaths, with another bang, the stone door was opened. As far as the eye could see, it was pitch black inside the door, and it seemed a little cold. "Go in!" someone shouted. The people nearby immediately rushed into the tomb like a swarm of bees. Bai Qiu grabbed Lin Tian's hand. Hurry up." Lin Tian was speechless. After being urged by Bai Qiu, he could only quicken his pace. However, in the next moment, his expression changed, and he dragged Bai Qiu back. With a bang, Bai Qiu crashed into Lin Tian's arms. "What are you doing?" Bai Qiu said with a red face. "There's something inside," Lin Tian said sternly. Bai Qiu frowned. "What? Ah!" Suddenly, a scream came from inside the stone door, and it was shrill and ear-piercing. Rumbles came from inside the stone door, as if thousands of soldiers and horses were galloping. What's wrong? What's happening down there? Outside the stone door, some people's expressions changed, but they stared straight inside. Seeing this, Lin Tian couldn't help but curse at them for being idiots. He pulled Bai Qiu and ran away. At this moment, a gust of black yin qi rushed out of the stone door, instantly dyeing the clouds in the sky black. Suddenly, a group of rotting corpses rushed out of the stone door. Their flesh was in tatters, but their eyes were blood red, as if they were the Grim Reaper from hell. They directly knocked the group of cultivators in front of the stone door into pieces. Then, the pitch-black yin qi rushed out and instantly corroded the corpses, turning them into thick water. The yin spirits have flesh and blood. This is the yin soldier. Damn it! Retreat first, someone shouted. Some places where extreme yin energy gathered would give birth to yin spirits after a long time. When the yin spirits became slightly stronger, they would give birth to some decaying flesh and blood. This kind of yin spirit that gave birth to decaying flesh and blood was called a yin soldier. After the yin spirits evolved into yin soldiers, they would absorb more yin qi and change again, becoming even more terrifying, ferocious ghosts. At this moment, a group of yin soldiers rushed out of the ancient tombs like the Grim Reaper from hell, and it was extremely terrifying. Watching this scene from afar, Bai Qiu shrunk his neck. That was close. Luckily, I didn't rush out. Then, Bai Qiu looked at Lin Tian and said in surprise, "Your spiritual sense is pretty good. You actually knew that something like that would rush out. Even I didn't sense it just now. I was lucky. I just happened to sense it." Lin Tian Dao. The White Lotus in his sea of consciousness had an innate ability to sense things of extreme yin. Just now, the many White Lotuses in his sea of consciousness had swayed slightly and issued a warning, which made him guess that there might be something ominous that was about to rush out. After a pause, he looked at the large group of rotting yin soldiers in front of him and asked with a frown, "Speaking of which, it should take a long time for the yin spirits to give birth to rotting flesh and blood, right? Or is it that the corpse chi of a celestial reaching realm expert is so strong that it can give birth to yin spirits in a short time, and then let them evolve into yin soldiers?" Looking at the front, Lin Tian was puzzled. The Demon Burial Valley in the first celestial domain was a battlefield in ancient times. Many people died there, and the yin qi was very strong. It had been 10,000 years since then, but it was rare for a large group of yin soldiers to appear there. However, in this place, in the tomb of a celestial reaching realm expert, so many terrifying yin soldiers had been born in just a little more than 1,000 years. This was really abnormal. These yin soldiers shouldn't have been born naturally. After the alchemist built his tomb, he must have found many corpses from various places and then put corpse cores in them. Bai Qiu looked ahead and analyzed. It's normal for a corpse core and a corpse to give birth to yin soldiers in a short time. It might even give birth to evil spirits. Corpse core? Lin Tianwei was puzzled. He was not surprised by evil spirits because he had seen them before. However, it was the first time he had heard of a corpse core. Didn't I say before that alchemists can make all kinds of baodan? Corpse core is one of them. It's said that it can make corpses change unnaturally and quickly absorb the yin qi between heaven and earth, turning them into yin soldiers and evil spirits. Moreover, this corpse core is only one of the many baodan that are not very eye-catching. After a pause, Bai Qiu continued. The pills made by alchemists can kill people, heal injuries, increase strength, increase a cultivator's speed, break some special seals, and allow demonic beasts to transform faster. Some powerful alchemists can even make a baodan that can prolong one's life. It's amazing. A baodan that can prolong one's life? Lin Tianyi was shocked. How long can it prolong one's life? An old drunkard had told him that lifespan was the most precious thing to cultivators. It was indeed amazing that alchemists could make a baodan that could prolong one's life. At least 1 or 2 years, at most 100,000 years. It can allow a cultivator in the chaos realm to live another 100,000 years. Bai Qiu said, 100,000 years. Lin Tian was shocked. One pill could prolong one's lifespan by 100,000 years. How amazing was that? Chapter 317. Hearing Bai Chio's words, Lin Tian was really surprised. A level 4 beast can transform into a human form? Yes, with that kind of pill, the transformed beast is comparable to a divine pulse cultivator. Bai Chio nodded. Lin Tian was slightly shocked. Originally, demonic beasts had to surpass 9 levels before they could take human form, but because of the precious pill refined by the alchemist, they could break away from their beast form at the 4th level. This was undoubtedly very shocking. Of course, Lin Tian felt that the most shocking thing was that the alchemist could refine the life-prolonging pill. This was very significant. Speaking of the life-prolonging pill, the maximum lifespan is 100,000 years. If an ordinary person obtains this Baodan, won't they be able to live for another 100,000 years? He asked. Bai Chio glanced at him. You're so stupid. Without the corresponding strength, how can that Baodan be swallowed casually? Not to mention an ordinary person, even a nirvana cultivator wouldn't be able to enjoy it. If they swallow it, they'll definitely explode and die. There's such a thing? Lin Tianyi was stunned. Nonsense. Bai Chio rolled his eyes and looked forward again. At this time, groups of Yin soldiers rushed out from the broken ancient tomb. Their Yin energy filled the sky as they rushed in all directions. In the blink of an eye, dozens of cultivators were killed. They were crushed by the Yin soldiers and quickly turned into thick water under the black Yin energy. Damn it, there are so many Yin soldiers. It's only been 1,000 years. How can it be like this? Retreat! Many people screamed. There were too many Yin soldiers rushing out, causing many people outside the tomb to panic. In the blink of an eye, many cultivators were crushed to death. At this time, a cold snort sounded. With a boom, a large purple light appeared in the sky like a cloud, shaking off a large number of Yin soldiers. A young man in purple flashed and rushed into the ancient tomb. Judging by his aura, he seems to be an outstanding disciple of Qinghua Taoism. Bai Chio said, he's at the peak of the spiritual sea. Lin Tiandao. With a clang, the sound of a saber rang out. Someone attacked and easily forced back another group of Yin soldiers, then rushed into the ancient tomb. The illusion saber technique of Xingge Taoism. Bai Chio whispered. Soon after, several more individuals took action. They were all around 23 years old, their strength extremely great as they rushed into the ancient tomb. How troublesome! Powerful disciples from the 10 great sects have arrived. All of them are at the peak of the sea of consciousness realm. Bai Chio mumbled. Lin Tian didn't mind. He smiled and said, what are you afraid of? If you really can't win, just reveal your identity. I'm sure you'll be able to shock everyone. Maybe they'll obediently give you the treasures they've snatched. You're mocking me again. Just kidding. All right, let's go in quickly. If we don't go in now, the treasure will be gone. Bai Chio urged. Lin Tian pulled Bai Chio. Don't worry. The tomb has just been opened. The Yin Qi inside is very strong. It's not good to absorb too much of it. It might damage your cultivation. Let's go in later. It's not that easy to enter the tomb of a celestial reaching realm master. Bai Chio glanced at Lin Tian. You seem to be quite experienced in this area. Do you often rob other people's tombs? Lin Tian. Yin Qi surged out in front of them. There were groups of Yin soldiers. However, most of the people here were at the sea of consciousness realm. After calming down, many of them began to fight back. About an hour later, the Yin soldiers that rushed out were all killed with great effort. At this moment, the surroundings seemed to be quiet. Are we still going in? A cultivator asked with a pale face. We spent so much effort to open the tomb. How can we not go in? Someone said and rushed in the direction of the tomb. I'm not going in. It seems that there are greater dangers down there. I'm not going in either. Someone shook his head and chose to leave. Of course, only a small number of people left. Most of them chose to enter the tomb. After all, it was the tomb of a celestial reaching realm alchemist. There were many treasures inside. In the face of such temptation, few people could resist. Lin Tian pulled by Chiu and arrived in front of the tomb in a flash. "We can go in now." Lin Tian on Dao. "How long are you going to hold my hand?" Bai Chiu glared at him with a red face. Lin Tian let go of Bai Chiu's hand and said speechlessly, "You usually bite me a few times, but I don't see you being shy." "What did you say?" "All right, let's go down quickly. Otherwise, all the treasures will be taken away." "Yes, let's hurry." At the mention of treasures, Bai Chiu's eyes lit up. The two of them walked into the tomb through the stone door. The air in the tomb was somewhat turbid and cold. Before long, many corpses appeared on the ground. They were so tattered that their faces could not be seen clearly. Bright red blood dyed the ground red. They should be the people who entered the tomb at the beginning. Lin Tian on Dao. "Yes." Bai Chiu nodded. The two of them continued walking. There were no forks in the tomb. There was only a very wide path that led forward. Walking on the path, the two of them saw more corpses of cultivators. At the same time, they saw many corpses of Yin soldiers. They were cut into pieces on the ground, and large amounts of black blood flowed out. "Go, go, go! Hurry!" Bai Chiu urged. Suddenly, two blood-red lights flashed in front of them. A powerful Yin soldier rushed out of the darkness and pounced toward Bai Chiu. "Be careful," Lin Tian warned. A delicate long sword suddenly appeared in Bai Chiu's hand. He casually slashed it down. The Yin soldier screamed and shattered in the blink of an eye. Black blood splattered all over the ground. Seeing this scene, Lin Tian was shocked. "You killed a powerful Yin soldier so easily?" He remembered that Yin soldiers and spirits were not easy to kill, but Bai Chiu did it with a simple slash. This surprised him. There are secret patterns engraved on the sword. It's used to kill Yin soldiers and spirits. When I sneaked out, I took a few from home. Bai Chiu said. Lin Tian looked over and realized that there were indeed many strange patterns on the sword in Bai Chiu's hand. It seemed to flow with a mystical power. "If you have such a thing, why didn't you give me one when you came in?" Lin Tian had the white lotus, which was the nemesis of Yin spirits. However, he was not willing to reveal it unless he had no other choice. "You didn't ask." Bai Chiu curled his lips. Although he said so, Bai Chiu still gave Lin Tian a delicate sword. Lin Tian waved it. The sword was very light, and the style was slightly fancy. "This is a sword for women." "Nonsense, I'm a girl. Of course the things I took are for girls." Bai Chiu said. "Now you know you're a girl. Why didn't you think of it when you were biting me?" "What did you say?" "I said that everyone loves you, and flowers bloom when they see you." "Bah! Smooth talker." The path of the ancient tomb was very dark. However, both of them were sea of consciousness cultivators. After spreading out their divine senses, they could see things in a short distance. In front of them, a fierce roar sounded. A few terrifying Yin soldiers rushed over. Lin Tian raised his hand and swung his sword. Without any resistance, he directly cut the Yin soldiers in half and killed them on the spot. This sword is really not simple. He was a little surprised. When he swung the sword just now, he didn't even use his spiritual ether, but he easily killed a few powerful Yin soldiers. This is a secret pattern engraved by an immortal. Of course it's not simple, Bai Chiu said. The two continued to walk forward. More and more Yin soldiers appeared in the ancient tomb, and more corpses appeared on the ground. Later, there were even yikshaws with wings. Their bodies were as hard as those of airborne realm cultivators. Bam! Lin Tian swung his fist and sent a yikshaw flying. Then he stabbed his sword into the yikshaw's body. "You really have a freakish body. You're only in the sea of consciousness, but your body is stronger than a yikshaw's." Bai Chiu was surprised. "Your sword is still the best. Even a yikshaw can't block it." Lin Tian Dao. As they walked forward, more and more cultivator corpses appeared on the ground. Then, horrified screams came from the depths. The two frowned and quickly walked deeper into the tomb. Not long after, a cultivator rushed out from inside and staggered out. "Brother, what's wrong?" Lin Tian pulled one of them and asked. "Don't mention it. This place is like a nest of Yin soldiers. There are spirits and yikshaws everywhere. There are even malicious ghosts. After saying that, the man ran away. Lin Tian's eyes narrowed. There really were malicious ghosts? Can the sword you took from home kill the malicious ghosts? Lin Tian asked Bai Qiu. No. Bai Qiu's face turned serious when he heard about the malicious ghosts. Lin Tian shook his head and didn't care. He continued to walk forward with Bai Qiu. Not long after, a large group of people appeared in front of them. There was an independent secret room in the middle. There were many precious weapons inside, including sabers, swords, hammers, and halberds. They all shone with a cold light. Almost all of them are mid-grade supreme treasures. Bai Qiu said. Lin Tian's eyes flashed with a strange light. Naturally, he also felt that there were many upper-grade supreme treasures among them. Boom! Spiritual ether was vast in front of them. Seeing so many precious weapons, many cultivators' eyes turned red, and they started to fight with each other. Middle-grade supreme treasures and upper-grade supreme treasures were very valuable. Few disciples of the top 10 sects and clans had them. Aren't you going to fight for them? Lin Tian asked Bai Qiu. These things are not of much use to me. What I need the most is the Baodan that can directly reach the airborne realm from the 9th level of the spiritual sea. Bai Qiu said, it is said that the Baodan is different from ordinary treasures of heaven and earth. Treasures of heaven and earth have some side effects, and it is not good to use too much of them. However, the Baodan has no side effects at all. It will not affect your future cultivation. Okay, Lin Tian nodded. Then wait here for me. After saying that, he rushed out and rushed to the secret room where many supreme treasures were hidden. Bai Qiu's family was rich, so he was not interested in supreme treasures. However, Lin Tian was different. Supreme treasures were still very valuable to him. He cultivated the weapon manipulation art. If he could get and refine more supreme treasures and use them in his weapon manipulation art, it would undoubtedly increase his combat strength. With a fierce roar, a ghost soldier roared and stood in front of him. Lin Tian raised his hand and slashed out. Coupled with his powerful physical body, he instantly shattered a large number of ghost soldiers. His eyes were bright. He spread out the yin and yang lun, leaving behind after images. Soon, he rushed into the independent secret room and grabbed 3 swords in his hand. All of them were upper-grade supreme treasures. With a flash of light, he put the 3 swords into the stone ring and stepped on the yin and yang lun again, fighting with the other cultivators in the secret room for the supreme treasures. Ah! Screams were heard. Cultivators were fighting each other for the supreme treasures. Soon, someone fell to the ground. At the same time, ghost soldiers rushed in and killed a few people from time to time. Lin Tian kicked away the cultivator who was fighting for a precious shield with him and took the shield. After that, he made a move again and took a few sabers and halberds that flickered with ghastly light. After dozens of breaths, many cultivators died in the secret room, and all the supreme treasures were taken. Lin Tian took 10 upper-grade supreme treasures and 10 ordinary supreme treasures. They were all extraordinary. The tomb of a connecting immortal alchemist is indeed different. There are so many treasures. Lin Tian's eyes shone. If I use these supreme treasures in my weapon manipulation art, my combat strength will increase greatly. Dong! You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.